Good afternoon, and welcome to today's New York City Council hearing for the Committee on Children and Youth. At this time, we'd like to ask everybody to place all electronic devices to silent. If you wish to participate in today's hearing, please fill out an appearance card with the Sergeant at Arms. Moving forward, no one is to approach the dais unless you have been called. Chair, we're ready to begin.
Good afternoon. I'm Councilmember Althea Stevens of New York City Council Committee on Children and Youth. I want to thank everyone for joining us today at today's hearing on after-school expansion and the Department of Youth and Community Development's concept paper. In April 2025, Mayor Adams announced a $331 million investment towards the mayor's vision of after school for all, with a commitment that will grow after school funding to 755 million annually to add 20,000 new seats for K-8 students over the next 3 years. This is a celebration. Our charge is to make sure the pace of this expansion is evaluated, whether rates are adequate, and the assets DYCD readiness is effectively oversees this ambitious growth. Today's oversight hearing will examine DYCD's recently released concept paper and proposed framework for the forthcoming RFP. We will consider providers' concerns that the new rates do not support qualified programming, staffing needs, or inflationary costs. As we look at these plans for expansion, it's important to reflect on how decisions are being made and who is included in the process. I was disappointed that just days ago before this hearing, the administration announced the creation of a new commission on universal after school. While the commission includes many respected leaders, it was formed without the meaningful input from parents and frontline staff. This is a missed opportunity to engage families who will be directly impacted. This hearing is particularly timely as the school year has just begun. Families are once again juggling school schedules, work responsibilities, and the high cost of raising children in New York City. After school is not a luxury. They are a lifeline. They help make our city more affordable and livable for families while offering students safe spaces for academic supports, enrichments, recreation, and social and emotional growth, which should be available to all students, not just some. While our focus will be on Compass and Sonic, I want to raise my concerns that we have not seen investments in beacons and cornerstone programs in years. Though those programs are major parts of the after-school ecosystem, and I want to uplift them as part of this conversation. A major misstep will continue to not address the issues and the isolation of programs instead of including and looking at the entire ecosystem as a whole. Our goals today is to evaluate the design of Compass and Sonic, to understand where improvements can be made, and to ensure a program operates at their full potential. Strengthening after-school programs is essential, not just for parents seeking support, but the future of our city and children. I would like to thank committee staff for their hard work in preparing for this hearing, policy analyst Elizabeth Arts, committee council staff Christina. Why did you take it out? I can say your name, Yellamenti. As well as the entire A team back in District 16. And with that, I will turn over this committee staff to committee council to swear in the administration.
Hi, good afternoon. Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this committee and to respond honestly to council member questions? Thank you. You may begin.
The Committee on Children and Youth. Thank you, Daniel. I'm DYCD Deputy Commissioner for Youth Services, Susan Haskell. I'm joined by Deputy Commissioner Denise Williams and Assistant Commissioners Daniel Guillen and Jessica Rathel. We are pleased to discuss the Compass After School program and our plans for its expansion. As Commissioner Howard discussed in the May executive budget hearing, the Compass After School program, which launched 20 years ago with an initial investment of $47 million, will grow to a record $755 million with DYCD serving about 184,000 total youth by fiscal year 2028. On May 30th, DYCD released a concept paper that included details about the expected program design. For the benefit of the committee, I will share some background about the history of the program. Compass, which was formerly known as the Out of School Time Program, OST, is comprised of over 890 programs serving young people enrolled in grades K to 12. OST was the forerunner to Compass in 2014, which included a major expansion in programming for middle school youth, renamed Sonic. Schools out in New York City. Compass is offered at no cost to families and operates in public schools, community centers, and other locations such as private schools and public housing sites. Through community-based organizations, Compass offers high-quality programs that have a balance of enrichment activities, including recreation, creative arts, STEAM, and social-emotional learning to support and strengthen the overall development of youth. Compass aims to help young people build skills to support their academic achievement, raise confidence, and cultivate leadership skills. This concept paper is committed to the investment made by the Adams administration and is the precursor to the RFP that will be released this fall. This expansion plan began with an immediate $21 million investment in fiscal 26 that will bring 5,000 additional K-5 seats online this fall. Compass funding will grow to $102 million in fiscal year 27 and $136 million to 2028. The plan will also raise provider rates starting in fiscal year 27 with the new RFP awards to stabilize the nonprofit organizations operating Compass programs and to better support the workforce that serves New York City's children. The concept paper proposes to raise the price per participant to $6,800 for year-round elementary programs and $3,900 for school year Sonic middle school programs. The concept paper also proposes to add program features including social and emotional learning, introduction to career and college options, mentoring and life skills, and mental health support. The concept paper emphasizes inclusion to ensure youth with special needs can fully participate in enriching and supportive programs alongside their peers. We are grateful to the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities, along with disability advocates and subject matter experts. Their collaboration helped to make this historic investment possible and informed the concept paper. Between May 30 and July 11th, DYCD conducted a robust stakeholder engagement process on the concept paper. DYCD facilitated 14 feedback sessions with 272 stakeholder attendees, including providers, advocates, arts organizations, parent leaders, and most importantly, the young people themselves. We also appreciated the opportunity to engage this committee. Additionally, DYCD received 567 submissions of written feedback. DYCD carefully reviewed the feedback, and we intend to incorporate stakeholder input into the RFP that will be released this fall. Earlier this summer, DYCD announced the initial 40 program sites of this expansion, prioritizing underserved communities, including New Yorkers with disabilities or living in high-needs neighborhoods. In consultation with New York City Public Schools, DYCD utilized a data-driven approach to select elementary schools for expansion. Considered were schools without a DYCD-funded program, schools with high economic need, and schools in communities with geographic service gaps. The new sites, on average, have larger concentrations of students with high economic need than our existing Compass portfolio and schools citywide. After these criteria were met, DYCD selected experienced Compass partners with the capacity to provide services this fall. We will follow the same process to cite the additional 10,000 slots for fall 26. Compass programs are complemented, as you noted, by our 92 beacon and 100 after-school programs in community centers. Finally, we were pleased that on August 29th, Mayor Adams signed Executive Order 54, creating the Commission on Universal After School. The commission will bring together cross-sector leaders from community-based after-school providers, advocacy groups, philanthropy, and the business sector to develop a strategy to deliver a universal after-school system that is sustainable in the long term and ensures nonprofit organizations have the tools they need to hire and train and deliver high-quality programming. We thank the members of the commission, led by Chairs Grace Bonilla and Dennis Walcott, and Executive Director Mike Nolan, in helping achieve After School for All. Thank you once again for the opportunity to provide details on the historic investment in after-school programs. We appreciate the strong support of the council and the committee in achieving this important milestone, and we are pleased to answer your questions.
Thank you, Susan, for keeping that short and sweet. And we're going to jump right into questions, but I would like to acknowledge my colleagues who have joined us. We have Councilmember Rita Joseph and Dr. Councilmember Natasha Williams. I'll jump right into some questions. How did DYCD determine where to open new after-school sites? Is this based on school or neighborhood data or surveys, or were there surveys to determine this? And can DYCD make public how they will choose sites for the additional 10,000 slots to be produced by the RFPs?
Yes, I will also open the question up to my colleague Daniel Guillen, starting initially to say, we looked at every single public and charter elementary school in considering how to allocate these seats, and then followed the data-driven approach I described. Daniel can share more details.
And as part of that, excuse me, okay. As part of that data-driven approach, we looked at the economic need index provided by New York City Public Schools, which determines the likelihood of students that are in poverty, and is calculated by using the HRA eligible or young people living in temporary housing, and looking at school population, looking at existing service gaps, identifying schools with limited or no DYCD funded after-school program, school readiness, and space availability and administrative support to ensure a streamlined approach to the startup of a strong after-school program, and ensuring that we were addressing geographic gaps, taking into consideration the entire campus portfolio.
And so I know some of the, critiques or issues were when I was talking to providers. Some of them didn't even know that folks were starting or whatever. How did you make this public so not only could providers know, but other folks could know as you were rolling this out? I know I received a couple of calls when some were opening up, but it didn't seem like it was really streamlined. And I know it was a fast turnaround, but that was my criticism. But
I mean, to start, we upped a page on the web, nyc.gov/afterschool, which detailed by borough where the new 40 sites would be.
When did that get uploaded?
I would say the day of the mayoral announcement, which was a couple of months ago, nyc.gov/afterschool.
And you upload, and it had the providers that were already chosen and the schools that you were going to be in when the announcement was made?
At that time, we knew the schools and we hadn't finalized the providers. Now, if you go to Discover DYCD, you can find those sites with their CBO provider.
That's interesting because some of the providers didn't even know that. So we have to figure out how do we make sure we are processing that information publicly and spreading it out. Will new center-based sites be explored in addition to school-based sites?
Yes.
How will DYCD procure the 5,000 additional slots to be added in FY 2028? Will this be part of the formal procurement process? If not, why aren't those slots included in the formal procurement process in FY 2027?
Well, two things, I think. In the first case, we really want to get this procurement out. We're working on the fastest schedule that we feel is reasonable, and that will initiate new programs in fiscal year 27. The funding for those additional 5,000 doesn't start till FY 28. So we'll include the 5,000 from this fall, the 10,000 from next fall into the RFP for awards for that fall. The final 5,000 will be allocated at that time. We will be able to reassess where changing needs are, changing demands. We'll have a better sense of what demand is at the new sites that we've upped, and I think we'll have a fresh opportunity to look at allocation.
Thank you. I would like to acknowledge Councilmember Linda Lee has joined us. How will DYCD ensure that the smaller community-based organization who often have the deepest, closest ties, but the least financial flexibility are not pushed out of the system under this new contract and cost structure?
I think this is, one of the main goals of releasing an RFP and allowing competition for our hundreds and hundreds of campus sites is from the smaller organizations we've heard from who said we want to be part of this. And it just had been a really long time prior to this administration's commitment to allow for competition. So we've been working together with Mox. I know my colleagues in planning and evaluation may have some details to share, but to ensure that people are prepared for doing applications in the system and that we can encourage as much competition as possible. Do we want to add anything specific?
The only thing I would add is that we have invested in, I oversee the capacity building team, and we've been proactively reaching out to small and emerging organizations, some of whom are part of our portfolio through discretionary or the crisis management system, and promoting this opportunity, bringing in Mox to do, I know if you had to create an account and some other issues, well, you have to be pre-registered in order to apply. So we've been intentionally reaching out to
What does
a
that outreach
nonprofit.
look like? Have you just because I know honestly, obviously, like you said, most of the discretionary goes through DYCD, so you have some type of relationship. But what did that outreach actually look like?
Going to contractor meetings for discretionary or the crisis management system. We are actually about to do what I call road shows in the boroughs. We have a webinar that happened yesterday that had 120 folks who signed up for it, and the outreach went to anybody in DYCD's portfolio, plus Mox, who has a much bigger list than we have, that was like getting ready for this opportunity, and not just programmatically, like organizationally.
Yeah.
Are you ready? And inviting folks to the robust capacity building offerings that we have.
I would just offer up, which I do all the time. We have 51 council members who also are on the ground. Use us. I think this was a good opportunity and moment where you guys could have reached out as you're doing the capacity building and reaching out to organizations. There's a lot of organizations that we just kind of know offhand who I know myself I get outreached about, especially this RFP all the time. But I'm sure my colleagues do as well. And so whatever information you're having about this with the outreach, please send it to us so we can send it out to all the council members so that as this thing is growing and rolling out, we could also be have an active part in the work as well.
Will do.
Um, Given the administration's commitment to expanding after-school access, why isn't Beacon or Cornerstones part of this rollout and the expansion? Because it's essentially, talking about expanding not just after school, but the enrichment universe. And I feel like one of the things that I'm struggling with is like we talk about all these things in silos, right? So we've been talking about early childhood for the last 4 years and how that needs to be universal. Now we're talking about after school, and we're talking about all of these things are connected, right? So if the kids out of early childhood, they need childcare at some point. They're going to need to go to after school, and at some point they're going to need to have some type of workforce development. So how do we get to a place where we're talking about this as entirety and a whole ecosystem opposed to doing like this mismatch? And for me, what ends up happening is we have organizations who do the gambit, and so you have different departments kind of fighting for different things. And so I would love for us to get to a place where we're talking about this more holistically and not in sections. So can you talk to me why Cornerstones and Beacons are not a part of this, and how do we start to bring them into the conversation? Because as we're expanding the after school piece, these other pieces are struggling. So
I appreciate very much what you're saying, and I want to share that this has been really a priority for Commissioner Howard, working together and looking holistically at our program set in every way. And my colleague Daniel, who oversees youth services operations, is really central to making sure like all the supports and guidance and communications and opportunities, resources are across the board. In my testimony, when I talked about 184,000 elementary students, we're including Beacon and Cornerstone. We're looking, as we plan this campus expansion, about also where our community centers are. So I think to some large degree, we really are trying to take that full picture into consideration and welcome any suggestions about how we could do that better.
yeah, they need an RFP too.
Fair point. I think the models are different enough that we can't get them into this one, and some may say we got a lot on our plate with this one.
I'm not saying you don't have a lot on your plate.
Yeah.
Nobody's saying that louder than me.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure that the administration hears and understands that we cannot piecemeal this approach because it's not working. And this is why we keep being in these situations. And so if we're looking at it holistically and we're looking at, okay, as we're expanding these slots, and like you did add the beacons and cornerstones in the slots, but they also don't have new contracts, which means their rates are going to be different, which means they are going to lose staff because as we know this happens when the rates change, they'll leave and go to other programs because they can make $2-3 more. And so those things have to be taken into consideration. And I think sometimes it's overlooked because when you're not in the weeds of things and you don't know, most people don't know. So I have to make sure that we uplift that and think about what does it look like to make sure that we're investing in beacons and cornerstones, because we know, for those of you who don't know, a beacon is basically a community center in a school and bringing the resources not just for the young people but for the families, right? And cornerstones are community centers that comes with a whole host of services, so we can't just talk about supporting young people, we need to be talking about the family. So just want to make sure we have that out here on the record. Providers rate and financial stability. So providers argue that the proposed price per participant rate in the concept paper are well below the actual cost of operating a substantial 12-month program. How did DYCD arrive at this rate?
We have been for many years, as you know, working on this Compass RFP, engaging as this team did in such depth with different providers about their needs. And we have a comprehensive look at what a sample or model budget could be, incorporating many of the things we've heard from CBOs about rates in the workforce and additional staff needs and professional development needs and that kind of thing. We have achieved so much with these rates in terms of right-sizing disparate elementary school rates, right-sizing the elementary rate to the SAC regulation ratios in comparison to middle school. Also, the middle school rate is calculated taking those into consideration. So we've really achieved a lot of equity in the rates that I think we don't currently have at the moment. And I think, we still continue to welcome feedback. I think that there has been a lot of feedback saying, acknowledging that this rate is going to go a long way toward the model that we developed. I know that not everybody's happy with it, but we have heard some positive feedback.
Yeah, I mean, it's more. So I think it's a start, and it's a start in the right direction. But just having ran these programs and some of the new requirements, it's still going to be tight. And so I think we have to make sure we're understanding what we're going to get out of it. And so there are a lot of new requirements. So I have a couple more questions to just go in depth about that later on, but I just want us to make sure we're thinking about that because it is one of those things. And I have another question. Will DYCD be providing a simple budget of how their expectations for the breakdown of the money so that providers can have a clearer understanding of what your thinking patterns were when we were coming up with this per participant rate?
We will consider that.
I would love for you to consider that. I think that'll be really helpful for providers, for them to have an understanding of how this can be maximized and what the vision of DYCD is, because I remember doing these budgets and I remember my program manager sometimes pushing back oh, you're paying this person too much. Oh, you're not paying this person enough. And so to avoid that back and forth, has any other providers had that? Can you raise your hand? All right. Oh, look at this. That has happened where providers have had this back and forth. And so I think going into this RFP, I think it's very important for us to make sure that we are very clear. And so if there's a sample budget or sample rates of what folks should be making and those things, I think that'll be helpful to us all. And also, I think the program managers will be happy so they don't have to go back and forth. So it's one less thing for them to do. So I'm happy that you are considering it, and I will follow up. Will DYCD be committed to revisiting and adjusting PP rates during the anticipated 6-year contract period, especially if inflation and wage mandates or new requirements make the contract rates unworkable? Are there plans to implement a COLA or cost escalators?
We are not prepared to make that commitment at this time, but we will continue to get engaged with our providers throughout the term of the contract.
Yeah, I just want to, because I don't want to be back out here on the steps in 2 years fighting for a COLA. I got other stuff I would like to do for the next 4 years, so we should definitely think about that now. So they don't have to be out here asking for COLA because we know we are. So we should definitely put it on the list of things to do and to monitor because it's gonna happen. The cost of living in the city is expensive, so that should be definitely taken into consideration. Did DYCD consult with providers when developing PP rates? If so, how did you incorporate the input in the final numbers?
We definitely consulted with a lot of providers. We got budget information shared from many of our providers saying, here's how we would budget, here's where our gaps are, here's where our needs are. As you know, some of the advocates shared documentation.
Yeah, I know UNH did like a whole report on it, but I think it's like they said 10, they were at 10,000 per participant. I see Nora was at 10, yeah, and I think you guys are at 6. So yeah, I think it's a little off. I don't even know if that's in the middle, but
we
so
took all that into consideration
took
in
that into
developing the
consideration.
PPP.
Okay. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Joseph. I know she has a couple of questions, but she needs to run in a bit, so turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Always good to see you both. So how did the DYCD and administration work with New York City Public Schools principals to ensure that school-based programs are open to youth in a larger community instead of exclusive to students enrolled in particular schools? What did that look like?
I mean, I would say how that looks now is Compass is available to students outside of the community. And I think the reality is that there are some sites that are in really high demand from students who are right there at the school. But we definitely encourage outreach to other local schools and community groups to let any young person know, especially if the program has capacity to welcome in other students. Transportation can sometimes be a challenge to get to those programs if you're not on site in school at 3 o'clock, but we are absolutely encouraging.
Are you working with superintendents, PTAs, SLTs, all of the stakeholders in the community to make sure that outreach is being done?
I think we probably could take this question to do more of that in every fall as a reminder. The principal's turnover, superintendent's turnover, just a reminder about what Compass is and that it's open to young people outside the school.
And can I just add to that, even with the
Sure.
principals, how are you making that clear with the principals? Because sometimes I was in a school where they would not allow us to do that. So could you talk a little bit about what that looks like?
I think, and I'll welcome input from my colleagues, but we work really closely with New York City Public Schools, and they're absolutely aware of like our practices and policies in order to be able to communicate that. Every program is meeting regularly with some school liaison, the principal or their designee, and parts of the school partnership agreement require this kind of regular dialogue. I will say sometimes there's a question that comes back like, hey, are we allowed to, we do get inquiries that acknowledges, I think that sometimes people are not sure, and we are always clear that you absolutely can enroll young people outside the school.
Hopefully that message is trickling down to folks that are doing that. So both Compass and Sonic will rely on input and participation from schools and partner groups. How does DYCD intend to ensure that it's working partnership between groups and schools? I know we talked about that a little earlier, but can you just give us an idea?
I mean, one of the, I'll turn to my colleague, Daniel, if you want to add something to this, but like one of the main tools is the school partnership agreement. So, in the beginning, which outlines roles and responsibilities, expectations about the school offering space and food and security and maintenance and all of those details, and the expectations of the provider to be running like a safe, welcoming program. Also getting guidance around any referrals, young people they think might benefit the program that the CBO can reach out to. So I think that is largely happening on site between school personnel and CBO personnel. More and more recently, we have started convening school principals with CBOs as we're doing these kinds of trainings. That's something We always have talked to New York City Public Schools and to CBOs, but bringing them together is something in the last couple of years that we've done more of, and we probably can do even more of that.
Yeah, you can do more of that, absolutely. And if you run into hiccups, what do you normally do? What are the courses to remedy situations?
Well, I think one of the benefits of having an assigned program manager per site allows program directors to connect with us and us work centrally. Yes, and connect with New York City Public Schools centrally, as well as the districts as well. Like our team has done roadshows and has met with multiple superintendents across the system to go over the model, go over expectations, so that when we do have those challenging moments, folks on the ground have the context and what those expectations are to navigate those relationships.
I would also say over the last 4 or 5 years, we've moved up. So we're not just focused on the principals, to your point about turnover, but the Compass team works a lot with superintendents now and more centrally. And then through capacity building, we have a vendor that focus on partnerships, not just school CBOs, but in our cornerstones, the resident councils and the CBOs and on to proactively develop and support partnerships over time. So we're trying to come at it in different levels.
I like that. What lessons has DYCD taken from summarizing initial planning and framework for universal after schools? Any takeaways, any lessons? Yeah. We thought it was a fire drill. I was ready to run. Yeah.
My colleague Daniel is largely leading summarizing operations with DYCD, so I will turn to him. But I will say, working in close collaboration with New York City Public Schools, we have gained a lot of traction in terms of like our communication and our supports and just people. It's actually helped principals and school staff on the ground better understand our partnership because it's been a required component each summer.
Yeah,
Daniel?
and what's been great over the past number of years is that joint engagement, the joint training, PD that's happening in leading up to summarizing. That has been a good practice, and I think folks are using during the school year as well. We've created these tools where it's a partnership guide, where it's kind of walking through all of the different operational components that happen on the ground to ensure that both parties are clear on what those expectations are. And we hope to bring a lot of those best practices into the after school and into the expansion.
I'm happy a lot of that stuff is spilling over to this program. So what factors went into determination on breakdown of hour allocated to each area, such as decision, not set minimum on physical activity for Sonic, but setting minimum on STEM, social emotional learning, and leadership development?
I think you mean in the concept paper?
Yeah.
That was a lot. I'm not sure if I got every component of that, but I know that you referenced like the requirements of STEM
Physical
literacy.
education, STEM, and social emotional learning. I've always said they cannot be separate. They must be embedded in the curriculum.
And can you say your question again about that?
Sure. What factors went into the determination on the breakdown of hours allocated to each of these areas? For example, physical activities, for Sonic, STEM and social emotional learning, and leadership development.
Okay, great question. One of the beautiful things about Compass in my mind is it's a comprehensive after-school program. And every CBO and potentially every site based on their staff has like a unique skills and interests that they can bring to the activities in their classroom. So we leave a lot of room for flexibility based on what the CBO and the staff are good at, because if they're loving what they're doing, the kids are going to love what they're doing. So I think our interest in naming these is just to say these are really important components that we want to make sure are every program. So make sure that you're addressing this. We don't want it to be like just this one thing. It is comprehensive programming. And a lot of this has come from young people and CBOs and our stake. Do you want to mention anything about our stakeholder engagement with respect to kinds of activities?
I'll start. So we've been talking about stakeholder engagement post the concept paper, but what informed the concept paper was engagement we've been doing over the past 5 years with external resources, so evaluators. So it's not just us going out and asking, but we've heard from young people, from parents, especially from middle schoolers, right? Because elementary, they're pretty much stuck.
Right.
You know, where you leave them. But the middle schoolers are quite clear about the arts piece, the physical education piece, to your point, that the leadership and development, and we heard this from providers, needs to be integrated into what happens across the board, that it's not separate. And I would say that about the social and emotional piece as well, which builds competencies around your own behavior, how you engage with others, decision making, and there's no better place to learn that than like being on a team,
That's right.
right? Where you see how you contribute, how others contribute. So we learned a lot pre releasing the concept paper that informed the design, and now we've gotten even more feedback from parents about more that they wanted to see a lot around arts.
And that was going to be my follow-up question
A
as
lot around
to,
arts.
what
Yes.
role does DYCD see arts playing? And this is why it's not included as a requirement core content area, given that not all schools have dedicated art programming. This would be an opportunity to embed that in there.
It is fully under consideration, which is the sentence I'm supposed to say. But we did hear that from young people.
We didn't hear it from you at all.
But we did hear it from young people, but particularly parents, that, not just drama, but, painting and all those things. And we've talked a lot to one of my favorite agencies, which is Cultural Affairs,
Yes.
to see how we can bring those that they fund. You
Theater,
probably know
music,
this,
dance.
Casa, from back in the day, right? We used to bring them.
We still got
have
Casa. And su
bringing
casa.
them into our programming was a big thing.
Absolutely. It's so important that we invest in arts, music, dance, theater. So I'm going to go along with, and Chair Stevens, I'll be wrapping up really soon. Supports for students with disability. How is DYCD working with DOE to ensure that students with IEPs receive appropriate accommodations and are meaningfully included in after-school programs to serve this population? Offered requires special training, trained staff, or other material resource. How will DYCD fund programs to make them accessible for young people in a safe environment?
I'm going to kick that off and just say that Compass is in schools and Compass is also in other locations. And so when we look at that, we're looking across the board at offering supports to school-based programs and center-based programs. And I think our collaboration with the Office of Special Education with respect to summarizing is one of those things that I think has really strengthened in a more broad way to benefit all Compass, Cornerstone, Beacon programs. And we can take those partnerships even further. So that partnership with Office of Special Education, certainly staff training, resources, on-site coaching, and other supports, and finally, clear guidance for CBOs on how to approach interactive dialogue with families and understanding what does a young person need to be successful in this program. That might be the first time that conversation, despite what's happening in the school day, is discussed around after school, and that's really at the heart of what it takes for a young person to be successful. Do you want to add anything to that?
Well, yeah, I think it's important to add that summarizing plays such a huge role in how we've really developed our thinking around providing the needed supports. So in collaboration with New York City Public Schools, we've surfaced scalable strategies that are now guiding year-round implementation, and that's included cross-agency planning, embedded special education supports, which includes personnel, paraprofessionals, nursing supports, right? We had behavioral specialists that were made available throughout the summer to provide support, virtual open office hours as well throughout the weeks. That's something, again, worth considering. There was inclusive program design, feedback-driven improvement, and, we did support a lot of our co-located sites that were part of D75, and that was inclusive of Horizon, Nest, Ames, and really ensuring that students were safe, that they were able to get access to the needed activities and supports, and leveraging those partnerships. So that's something, again, what we're looking at.
I know transportation for our students with disabilities has always been a huge issue. How is that being worked out for our students?
We do hear that as a barrier for some students who are entitled to busing and are not able to access that resource at the end of the after-school day. We are definitely taking in all of that stakeholder feedback and looking at available options to support families in that way.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Um, just real quick, I want to just even go back to like some of the school partnership and um, the school building. Schools, I remember when this was an issue. Sometimes schools would have issues with the vacation camp hours and giving providers a hard time around the permitting process. And we know that there's required hours. How are we making sure that this is more streamlined and principals are very clear and aware of like making sure that these are the hours that they're committing to and it has to be done? And what does that process look like?
So, going from a macro to micro approach, working even more closely and intently with New York City Public Schools Central on our agreements on space and hours of service and what's required in order to make this program work. And then really engaging at a much more localized level and what those expectations are, going through the model, what we anticipate on the ground, the types of asks that folks will get, and ensuring that the permit is reflected of that. That is all written down and it's agreed upon, right? And that's kind of the basis of the school partnership agreements, along with the extended use permits that allow to utilize the space to ensure that all are aware of what's expected.
Yeah. I mean, I was happy to hear that you guys are doing more meetings with principals and superintendents. I think that this is something that needs to be addressed every single time because I know for myself that used to be an issue, and I'm sure in certain schools sometimes that still becomes an issue. And I know even DYCD, that was the issue for you guys because then you would be left to try to figure out locations for programs who weren't able to get the hours because of some of those issues that we are just talking about. So I just wanted to make sure we talked a little bit about that. So I'm going to move on to with the first after school procurement in 10 years and growing system, a 5-week turnaround time to submit a proposal seems insignificant. Will DYCD consider extending the timeline to account for providers submitting multiple proposals as well as precise issues with passport?
I think as you said, like early on, like this is an incredible massive investment in administration. We are definitely motivated to operationalize this as soon as possible. And all of us are working on a really, really quick timeline that would include community-based proposers. I think in every RFP we consider extensions where appropriate. But we really want, our goal is to have an additional 10,000 seats operationalized by next September. As you know, that's just about a year from now. And if all of the tasks leading up to that are going to happen, we really need everybody who's part of this to work as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Have you guys taken into consideration the many issues that we all have with passport and this being such a big RFP and what that actually could mean to the system?
I mean, Passport has been such an amazing partner. I think that Passport is meeting with, Mox, has been.
I will say, I know you don't need passports.
Yeah,
that just can't be possible.
No. Mox has been such an amazing partner. I think they're meeting daily.
Yeah, we love Mox, but that's not the issue. I'm talking about Passport, the actual system that gives us all issues. This is going to be a huge RFP with a fast turnaround. And so how are we preparing for the issues that we know are going to happen with Passport?
So, as an administration, we're having real intensive conversations on all of the potential hiccups, right? So, it's not just planning for what we would anticipate, but also planning for what we may not anticipate, right? And Mox has been a great partner in communicating with us their progress and making sure that the system is ready for when the RFP is released.
System design, modifications, testing, all the things that are required.
All right. When we have this joint hearing in December with contracts, because Passport done collapse, I just wanted to be on the record that I'm saying it now. So hopefully there's another plan because we all know the issues that we have when it was smaller RFPs, and this is probably the biggest one since we transitioned to Passport, and I am very, very concerned. The concept paper is not clear on what the summer programming model will be. Will summer rising be continued in the future? Will there be an option for CBOs to operate alternative summer models?
The concept paper it discusses, year-round programming for elementary age student. And the city's model for that right now is summarizing. So that would be full day 8 to 6 programming in the summarizing model that we implement now. And then, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the rest of I can't remember the rest of your question.
And will CBOs have options to operate alternative summer program because it's not clear in the concept paper if it's summarizing, or will they have options to be like, hey, we want to do something different? Is that an option? Is there any flexibility in it?
For K to 8 programs, if you're in a school building, you'll be operating summarizing. Center-based programs will be operating, outside of public schools on their own model, but school-based programs will be operating summarizing.
What is the future of Sonic summer program? The concept paper stated that the summer program model for middle schools will not be contracted through the coming RFP. How will those seats be contracted, and what will be the model used?
Similarly, for school-based middle school Sonic programs, they'll be funded for a 10-month school year program. At this time, we fund like roughly 50,000 middle school seats, and we, in the summertime, fund something more like 30,000 to meet that demand. So for sure, not every school year Sonic program is going to be funded for summer, but we maintain our commitment to providing summer enrichment programs for middle school students. And the way our team has approached that is responding to demand, responding to where we see the highest demand for middle school seats to ensure like that's where the seats are going. And so we'll probably deal with that during amendment. Maybe at some point in the future, though, that demand becomes more stable and we could baseline those. But at this time, we really want to maximize the use of available programs. And in that way, we're placing the programs where the demand is.
The concept paper requires hybrid programming, does not have clear, defined expectations. Can you clarify whether DYCD intends for providers to offer both in-person and remote services spontaneously? And if so, will you be supplying providers with the equipment and an example of how those programs will be conducted?
I might ask my team if they want to share something on that. Yeah, about stakeholder engagement. We certainly heard questions in response to this.
Yeah, we certainly heard that there was some clarity needed. So we will definitely be providing that clarity in the upcoming RFP. And I just, I think want to point to that. Really, this is not that any remote component, as it states in the concept paper, is really meant to enhance, not replace in-person programming, which we know is really a core component of after school.
Yeah, but I mean, we've also went through COVID, and none of us expected that,
yes.
and so I'm assuming that is why that is thinking like, okay, if something happened again, and so that's why I think the clarity is necessary, right? And so even when you're thinking about snow days, they're no longer snow days; they have to go to school remotely.
Yes.
So is that what you're thinking? I would love to hear where the thinking is around that.
Yeah, 100%. We learned a lot from COVID, obviously, and we want to be able to meet the need if anything were to happen again. I think we also learned that there can be creative ways to use asynchronous or online pieces that could complement regular required in-person hours. And so we will be providing clarity on that in the RFP for sure.
I will be watching. Will DYCD be providing funding for the technology, staffing, and space costs that hybrid program requires? Seeing that you're going to put this in the RFP?
Correct. We will provide clarity on that in the RFP.
No, I asked, are you going to be providing additional funding?
I think we will provide clarity on what the requirements are, and I think then
I'm just going to go on record for saying if you're putting this in as a requirement, funding should be attached to it. And so we can't expect people to be able to shift and have technology and not have funding for it. And so I just would like to point out, if that's going to be a requirement for programs to do that, we need to make sure that there is money to match that.
we hear you. Thank you.
Will DYCD provide a list of approved social and emotional curriculums for prospective providers?
DYCD has been doing a lot of research and learning over the last few years. We've been piloting a measurement tool for social emotional learning, been doing some research on best practices, alignment. We also got a lot of feedback around, making sure that there's flexibility. And so we will be taking all that into consideration for the RFP.
Yeah, but that's not what I asked. Will you have a list for, because that's another requirement, a component. Will you have information to make sure providers have options? Because that's not an RFP thing. Like, this is ongoing program. So is that something you're working on as you're putting this together? Will providers be able to say, hey, can you give us a list of curriculums that are approved by DYCD so that they can provide this service?
Right. The requirement, as it lists in the concept paper, they will be required to use a curriculum. We will make it clear how that approval process will work in the RFP.
That's not my question. I asked, will you have a list of curriculums from the choose from? Not will you have a process on how it's approved? Because even if it's how it's approved, where are they going to get the information from? Are you just going to say you need to have this, go on, and then now they're going to come back and now you'll approve it or disapprove it? So are you working on that currently?
I would say yes and. So we will have a list of things that we've reviewed and heard from other providers that they use, but we will also heard strongly about mandating curriculum. So we will have
I didn't say mandated.
List.
I'm asking
No,
will you have
I'm
a
just
list?
saying
Yeah.
what Jess was referring to is that we will review for folks who want to propose. So yes, we will have recommendations and we will review for CBOs who want to propose that's not on the list that we have. So I was just saying yes and.
Oh, no, I was just saying, I agree with you. And that's the question I was asking, but that's not the answer I was getting.
Right.
So that's why I was confused, other than saying like, oh, it'll be a process in the RFP. We know that. I want to make sure that there's options for providers to be able to say, hey, I don't have this experience. Could I have a list of something? And I want to make sure you guys are working on that so that you can be ready to go, because we all know that's going to happen. So that's it. Will providers be allowed to standardize social emotion tools across all contract sites, or will the SEL tools be decided by school staff? Because a lot of times, just so we are clear, a lot of times most providers have multiple contracts, and sometimes schools will be like, well, we're not doing that. This is what we're doing. So how will that process work too? Because sometimes it's harder for providers to have a different system here and a different system here around like how, whether that's incentives or whatever, and schools are saying something different. So how are we working through that as well?
We've been piloting for the past few years. We've been piloting one tool, and that's grown over we're now in year 3 of piloting with a tool for SEL measurement. Our goal really is to be able to use one tool across the whole system, so that we as a system can come here, can go to wherever we need to, and be able to talk about growth in SEL across the whole system. So really, our goal is to have a centralized system, so everyone is using the same platform and able to speak the same language about the growth and competencies that are gained.
Okay, I have a couple more questions, but I'll stop here for Councilmember Mena, who has joined us. Thank you for joining us, and she has questions.
Oh, thank you so much, Chair. So first of all, I just wanted to follow up on a question that was asked by my colleague, Councilmember Joseph, who was talking about students with disabilities. One of the answers that you gave to her focused on paraprofessionals. My concern is that there's currently a vacancy rate of 1,600 at DOE for paraprofessionals. So how are you addressing that? And can you be very specific about what you're doing about that and how the paraprofessionals fit into this equation?
I think that's a great question. I appreciate that question. And I think it comes down to what each young person who may need an accommodation needs to be successful in after school. And that may or may not be different than what they need a paraprofessional in the school day. And so in that interactive dialogue between like a CBO leadership and the family, it really comes down to like, what do we need here? It may be, for example, that it's like just a swing staff at the program who needs to be like a second person in the room to make sure that young people are safe and not leaving the classroom. It might be that it's behavioral issues that comes up in after school, and it could be about like coaching techniques for de-escalation or having certain parts of the classroom. Some of the things I think you mentioned where young people can calm down.
Yeah, but my question, I don't feel like you're answering it, is that we've got a vacancy rate of 1,600 paraprofessionals. What is the administration doing to address that?
Well, I mean, I don't want to speak for New York City Public Schools. I know they're working on vacancy rates and filling all of their positions. In community-based organizations, I think that we can take those after-school situations, like student by student, understand what they need. We don't necessarily need to draw from the same pot that New York City Public Schools is trying to fund. It's different hours of the day. It could be somebody works 8 to 3 and then they're also interested in working 3 to 6. It doesn't require an additional person. It could be the same person. So if we kind of take it student by student based on their needs, the qualifications of the paraprofessional that might be available, and meet those needs individually.
Another topic I wanted to ask about, and I know this was addressed earlier, the Mayor's Executive Order 54. So this new commission, when is it first meeting? How many times a year is it meeting?
We are currently DYCD staff are supporting the commission. We've met on a monthly basis in the very recent past, and I think the goal is to continue that traction with some additional work group or smaller group or by industry groups conversations in between. The goal is really to come, I can't remember like the outer term of the commissions, but it's really to come up with a plan for this vision of after school for all that could be something we pursue over the
So
longer term.
when can we expect to see like the first deliverable? What is the timeline on that?
Well, I think the deliverable would be, for lack of a better word, maybe a blueprint or a plan for what it would take and what is our vision for universal after school for all. I understand that would be like a final product of the commission.
Okay. Then no more specifics so on that other than the blueprint. I mean,
Can you say more about the deliverables? I mean, we are looking at data, we're examining different models, we're discussing what components could potentially be barriers and what components could be potentially opportunities. So I think the commission is going to lift up these are experts in New York City. They're going to be lifting up all kinds of considerations. And yeah, I'm open to hearing more about deliverables.
and when you say it's universal, what will that mean?
Well, I think we acknowledge like this is the biggest expansion of elementary school that we've had in a really long time, of the already like the biggest municipal system in New York City. But we acknowledge like there will be people who still have trouble accessing after school because we're not in every single school. And we don't right now have seats for every single student in New York City who wants a free after school program. So we want to get there. And we've taken this really ambitious goal, 5,000 seats this fall, as Chair Stevens noticed, on an ambitious timeline, 10,000 seats the following fall, again, on a super ambitious timeline. So it's creating a plan for how you could get there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Mena. I would like to lift up, UNH already did a report on getting to universal after school, so I don't know why we would have a commission to do that when there's a lot of providers already doing it, and I'm almost positive you guys are super busy getting these programs up and running to now have to be on a commission. But there is some data out there that they did, and it was pretty extensive, so maybe we can share that with the commission so they can focus on something else, because they did a pretty extensive plan of what it would look like, what it would take, and the funding costs, and it was a whole breakdown. So I just would like to lift that up, that there is actual folks doing this work currently. And again, even with the commission, I'm disappointed that we don't see families represented on their frontline staff. Like, yes, our executive directors there are important, but I am positive none of them are running these programs currently, and so it's going to look very different. And again, I think you guys already got stuff to do, and so I don't think this is where you guys should be focusing your time at. But I'm going to pass it off to Councilmember Williams, who has a couple of questions.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I have a few questions. You know, one thing about this room, it's a little tight back there. Yeah. Yeah, it's very weird. I'm like, ooh, let me fix my hair. Okay. My questions are in relations to the state implications of after school. So how did DYCD account for schools with documented wait lists or those that lost after school funding under learning and enrichment after school program supports, but were still excluded from new allocations?
Well, I think And I appreciate my colleague like outlining more of this process in detail, but we looked at every single New York City public schools, including charters, in examining like where do we need to start this? Like this is just the first 5,000 seats of a 20,000 seat expansion. We looked at schools with the highest economic need without a DYCD funded after school program. And so, like to the point we just made earlier, we know that not everybody has a program at this time. There will be challenges to get to the ultimate vision of universal after school, but we're going, communities have changed since we last did an RFP. And so we're looking at like where there may have been deserts or geographic gaps and where the highest needs are. That's how we made our decision.
And it wasn't it wasn't just limited to the DYC funding. We worked really closely with New York City Public Schools on identifying as many assets as we could on the different funding types and models, right? Some funding models are not as comprehensive, others are, and trying to make the best assessment in making sure that those first 40 schools were really thought out and really strategic, and ensuring that not just about where the gaps are, but that the school was also prepared to receive a new after school program, as well as, again, in consideration for the future RFP.
Did you consider at all potential state funding in your assessment, or was it just solely based off of need and gaps?
I would say a combination, right? Not just limited to a single data point, but the best comprehensive picture of all, right? Inclusive
Okay.
of school population, inclusive of the rates of young people and students in temporary housing, students with disability, as well as where they are operating geographically as well.
Thank you. DYCD has acknowledged that New York City lost more than 6,700 after school slots under LEAPS, with the Bronx and Queens hit the hardest. How is DYCD coordinating with the state to mitigate the loss of slots in precisely the neighborhoods where demand is highest?
I mean, I'll start by saying like this city is again making a massive investment, right? The 5,000, the 10,000, and the 5,000. We understand there is need. And I think you mentioned the Bronx and Queens, which are the boroughs that had the biggest gaps and the highest needs, and that's where we allocated the highest numbers of program in this first 40 batch of 5,000 seats. So we just kept our focus on which schools need after school the most, and that was largely our consideration. We don't have a ton of coordination. We have communication with the state for sure, but we don't have a ton of coordination with them on where they're making their awards. But regardless, we're looking each time at all the public schools and where the program is needed the most, whether or
So
not
you
they
say
were
you
impacted by the state.
You don't coordinate with the state on where they're making awards.
LEAP is a state's program, right? And we're working on Compass here. We coordinate with the state 100% because they are the oversight of school age childcare regulations. So our ties with the state are super close.
But not specific to where they're making awards on LEAPs.
Yeah, and in terms of where DYCD's focus and investment is, it's like which schools in New York City need this program the most. That was the driving question.
Okay. I do get that perspective. I also do feel like big government, like with a big G, like which includes like everybody sometimes, especially I'm always a little annoyed by the lack of coordination between the state and localities on many different issues. That's so crazy. Not just with after school. I can give you a ton of examples like bail reform. That's another issue that required state and local coordination. But to me, it doesn't seem like there is true coordination around what is actually happening. So yes, the city is focused on what the city is focused on, and the city has made an analysis that they feel confident in, but to not consider or even have a sense of what the state is doing, to me, I think could create overlap, or could create further gaps in certain areas. And so I don't think that's a good practice to only essentially be in coordination, because we have to. We're creatures of the state.
Yeah.
And so there's a level of like obligation that we have to the state, but it doesn't seem like that obligation carries through when it comes to specific programs and initiatives.
I agree with you 100%. And Daniel just said, we looked at all of that. We looked at all of that information. Where are LEAP programs now? Where were LEAP programs? We looked at a whole collective set of information. And then I just wanted to lean back on, at the end of the day, it was like, where are these programs needed most?
Yes, because when you said like we coordinate, but we don't coordinate, I was like,
I withdraw, we don't coordinate.
okay. I was like, that's crazy. Okay. New York
I
City.
actually know what you meant by that. They don't tell us. Yes, I said it.
And to be fair, and maybe it seemed like I was more so being harsh with you, but to be fair, I agree. I think that a lot of times the state is like, oh, we're the state. And I feel like we have these unfunded mandates or these requirements that we are obligated to comply with, but there isn't a lot of coordination from the state. So again, I always use the bail reform situation where it's like, yes, it was a state law, but there was little to no coordination or assessment, or even like the state analyzing whether or not the city specifically had the infrastructure to really do bail reform in the right way. And so I feel like it's the same thing here. Like they're making these decisions at the state level and not really coordinating with the city in a way that allows for us, because I'm a council member, I'm part of the city, for us to make intelligent decisions about what we're doing. So it's a little frustrating. New York City is investing heavily in universal after school, but without state partnership, families are left behind. How is DYCD ensuring that the city's expansion does not simply mask or absorb the state's disinvestment? I think it's so important that we highlight the state's disinvestment, because they are the first to tell us that we're able to do all these things because they give us money. But when it comes to disinvestment, they're very quiet on that.
Yeah, I'm going to stick to the previous answer about taking into consideration what was happening at the state level and keeping our mission focused on where the schools were needed most.
Okay, I have another question unrelated to the state, just about your assessment. So for campus programs, what metrics were used to evaluate the success of an off-school site location compared to programs based in schools where students remain in the same building? Are providers rated or scored differently depending on whether their site operates inside a school building versus at an external location?
So DYCD does have evaluation and monitoring metrics that we use to assess all of our programs, including our Compass programs. And so, our Compass programs are held on enrollment and the rate of participation or average daily attendance, depending on the program. And so those are metrics that are clear in contracts and that all Compass programs are held to and assessed based on the slots that are allocated to each program.
Yeah, additionally, there are minor differences between the center-based programs and the school-based programs. So in a school-based program, there's, I think, a higher expectation that you're coordinating with the school staff on the site. In a center-based program, you may have to be looking broadly at all the schools in the community and looking at those higher needs. You also, you have slightly different, you have a slightly different situation. But as Jessica mentioned, there's a set of rubrics that are super standardized between both of them. Are young people engaged in activities? Are there a safe number of staff to complete ratio? Is the space free of hazards? Those things are common across both sets.
Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. I want to also just piggyback really quickly off of just some of the comments that my colleague made around the state, where it's I just want us to also just take into consideration that the state did shrink their numbers. And so as we're expanding, it might not be felt the same because they shrunk their numbers. And so I think that is important to highlight, because with us expanding, the state is not talking about how a lot of their LEAP programs were closed and we lost funding. And so I'm just as frustrated as Council Member Williams, Dr. Williams, around, again, we are always here to absorb a lot of the things that the state does, and we don't get the credit for it. And so I just want to make sure that I'm giving you guys the credit for this expansion, when in the absence of the state continuing to provide the services that we need. I just wanted to make sure we have that on record. I would like to pass it over to Councilmember Lee.
Hi, everyone. I'm so sad because my sixth grader actually did not get into his Sonic program because there was a wait list, and I thought I did all the directions and everything. I followed everything to the T. So fingers crossed that he'll get in if someone else drops out. But there's definitely a need. I can say that for sure as a parent. So I was actually telling them, hey, did you know DYCD is expanding their seats? So you should look into this. But in terms of the RFP, I was just wondering if you have any more, and forgive me if this was gone over earlier, but if you have any more specific dates or timing in terms of fall 2025 of when the RFP is supposed to come out?
As we would love for it to come out as soon as possible. I think we're feeling really optimistic that it'll be more like the early side of fall.
Like now? This is the first week of fall, right?
Technically.
Okay, and will you be funding or will it fund the pre-award onboarding or extend startup beyond the first month? In terms of the funding.
Can you say that one more time?
I think
So-
you're referring to contract startup.
Yes.
They're
Yes.
aiming for July startup for September programming. So they were trying to build in lead time
The lead
because
time,
we do
yeah.
hear that. But that's why we're all going crazy to go as fast as possible.
Okay. And then just in terms of some of the feedback we've been hearing from some of the providers for the hybrid and summer clarity, just to clarify that, will hybrid be required? And if so, what funding line covers tech/staff? And what's the Sonic summer academic versus recreation split?
Sure. Yeah, so for hybrid, we don't intend for that to replace. It's really about having complementary enhancements, but really we know the importance of in-person after-school programming, and so we heard the feedback certainly around clarity, and we'll provide that in the RFP to make sure the requirements around that are clear at contract time. And Susan, you want to talk about?
And the model, the summer enrichment model for middle school students? Or in general? Yeah, in general, as we were saying a little earlier in the hearing, it's for summer enrichment in schools, we are following the summer rising model. We are committed to summer rising, and so we've generally continue to improve the model year to year. There may be tweaks or additional resources and supports, and all that will be communicated to providers. But generally speaking, we're following the summer rising model in summer 2026.
Okay. And just in terms of capacity and oversight, because obviously with a lot of new seats, how is your staffing plan internally going to change to make sure that the contracts are being kept up with and that the payments are made on time? Because I know it's also a lot of work for the ACOs that have to interface with a lot of the nonprofit organizations. So just wondering if there are plans on your side internally to staff up.
Yes, and that's across the board from program management to the contract development across the agency.
Can you give a breakdown on how many and how much more staff are you looking to add on?
Yeah, I don't have that breakdown. We can get it to you. We are looking at a phased increase in personnel support to align with the phased increase in seats.
And have those seats already, those positions already been approved by the MOB?
Many of them have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting.
Okay. And just sort of piggybacking off something that Councilmember Williams mentioned, in terms of the offsite Sonic and Compass programs, are those being looked at as well in terms of expansion sites as well, or are you focusing more on the school locations first and then looking outward from there?
We're taking into consideration schools and communities where there's gaps and there's high economic need.
Okay, perfect. Because I know that sometimes, for whatever reasons, the schools may not have capacity to have the program. And so, are there fellow nonprofit organizations or other places where it could be housed? And then I guess that was my other question, because I know that just from having applied to want to get a Sonic or, yeah, that's annoying. Yeah. From getting a Sonic or Compass program, because we had a site at my former nonprofit and was looking to get it in, but obviously it's based on the relationship with the school principal and their willingness to do it. And we had so many meetings with some of the local principals, and at the end of the day, they just want to stick with the location, the partnerships that they have. And so, if we're looking at expanding this, is there a way to incentivize principals to be able to work with other groups, and also how do we support them to be able to handle the increase?
I think that's a great question. There's a lot in there. I mean, I think the RFP is an opportunity, first of all, to open the field to additional partners, bring in additional capacity. That would be a wonderful outcome, something we're really looking forward to. Not just additional capacity for additional seats, but also just more providers to help us continue to build this system and grow. And to your question about coordination, I think as we were talking about a little bit, and Denise was alluding to, working with more and more working with the superintendents and the executive directors in the school districts to make sure that there's a holistic understanding about what Compass offers and how important after school is, and that will help to navigate, because principals have a ton on their plate. Do they always fully understand what the program is? Some better than others, so it's our job to keep working together with them to make sure everybody understands the value to families.
Yeah, because I just want to make sure, because being from Queens and it being such a diverse neighborhood, like for example, there are a lot of growing emerging communities in my area, especially in the South Asian community, and they speak all sorts of different dialects and languages. And so, just as an example, there's an elementary school across, and then right across the street, there was a new mosque that was built. And I think they have been partnering very well together. And in that instance, I wonder if, because there's definitely a need in that area of Queens. And so I wonder if there's an opportunity. And I don't know if the imam at the mosque knows about the fact that he can apply for these programs, right? So how do we help to reach out if we were to maybe build some of those partnerships so that the students could get served and possibly expand or create a program there? Because I know the principal in this instance would be willing to partner with them. And so I just wanted to see if there was room for that, or if you guys are looking for the cultural linguistic pieces in addition to the economic as well.
I think I understand, we are going to have a school-based part of the RFP release, and there'll be a center-based part of the school RFP. So would non-schools, but nearby working with a school student, be able to apply and run programming on site? Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yes, that, and then also to make sure again that we're looking at the diverse needs of the areas that we're serving, because I think in a lot of instances there's a lot of immigrant families that may be dealing with certain issues in their community that perhaps other areas of the city may not need to deal with, and just so to be sensitive to that. Yeah.
That's an excellent point, and I think, as we move forward with the RFP, we'll be taking into consideration, being able to serve the broadest lens of New York City across the board.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Lee. And just to piggyback, I think that is a really good point to highlight as we're thinking about the RFP, because I know the commissioners come to my district a number of times because we have a huge West African population that's been growing in my district, and they have been expressing a need to have something or programs that were a little bit more culturally specific, especially for our Muslim population who sometimes have to be separate and need prayer and things like that are not sometimes considered. So thank you for bringing that up, because I definitely agree 100% that as things are changing, we should definitely be looking at like what are some of those other partnerships that we could be thinking about to embed in it to ensure the inclusivity. But I know it gets hard because we want to make sure we are as broad as possible. But I do know that there have been conversations when the mayor and the commissioner came to my district with some of the Muslim and African growing populations in my district. I have some questions around staffing. We're almost done. You guys are doing great. How you feeling? Everybody feel okay? All right. The concept paper raises qualification requirements for nearly every staff category. Why do content specialists who are part-time need to meet the qualifications as a program director, including a 4-year degree and supervisor experiences? How does DYCD expect providers to recruit for those roles, given the mismatch between part-time pay and high qualification requirements? Will DYCD consider making the supervisory requirement optional or provide flexibility for equivalent experience?
Go ahead.
So yeah, I mean, I think we certainly heard this feedback from providers, from all of our stakeholder engagement, and are taking things into consideration for the requirements for the RFP. I do think we certainly want to make sure we have high quality staff. The content specialist in particular, there are a lot of areas that we want to make sure we have high quality programming, and we value that experience. But definitely heard and are taking into consideration, what makes sense for all the different requirements for the RFP.
Yeah, because listen, I remember the education specialist. It is so impossible to hire for that role. And then when you hire a teacher, the per teacher rate, we can't afford. So I think as we are reimagining, those are the little nuances we have to make sure we're addressing and not adding additional burden. Because yes, a degree, yes, nice. But is it always required? And so how do we make up for those different things?
So I think it's also important to add that through the concept paper, we're really trying to align with the OCFS school age childcare regulations.
Yeah,
that way
don't get
there's
me started with that.
consistency.
It's a whole nother fight.
That's a whole other party. But what we want to make sure is that there's consistency between what the state expects, DOHMH and DYCD.
Yeah, I mean, what the state expect and what they pay for is two different things. But don't get me started. Didn't I just tell you I didn't like the state at this moment because they cut those programs? All right, I'm just saying. But we also need to push back on the state, because I remember they said I didn't qualify for the SAC license, although I had a minor in education, and it didn't make sense. And so we know that sometimes it don't make sense. And this is one of the places. So I think maybe we should go to the state folks. And so maybe that's something we'll do. And I'll add to lobby for that on our state agenda. The concept paper listed the proposed qualification for group leader as at least 2 years of direct experience with children under 13 years of age and preferably associate's degree. Group leader positions have traditionally been entry-level roles that brings young adults into the youth development field. Why is DYCD adding a new degree and experience requirements that shrinks this pipeline?
I think, look, it's a hard job, right? Working with young people, we know we want to have a certain level of experience and qualification. The group leader is required to have a high school diploma or equivalent. On top of that, we're looking for people who have experience with young people. That could include personal experience. It doesn't necessarily have to be professional experience. And you have to have, like here in the concept paper, it's calling for, content knowledge, experience, and skills to effectively implement activity. Like that's the minimum of what we need so that if there's a room full of young people, they're going to be engaged in meaningful activities. And they could be supported, and they should be and will be supported by program leadership, including the concept specialist and the program director. But and again, aligned with the school age childcare regulations that, say more about what we could do differently with the group leader, because that feels like a good set of qualifications for that role.
They're a good set of qualifications, but especially with you guys being DYCD and understanding the crisis we're having with young people not being able to get jobs. And what I've been saying, we have to reimagine workforce for young people. We should not be shutting young people out from being able to have easy access to these places, because this is part of the problem. No one is hiring them. And now we're putting in requirements that's going to block out people who would be better off in that program doing activities and working with those young people than outside on the street. And so I get, again, the state got some issues, and I'm going to add it to the list of things that we're going to advocate for because they don't understand. But we have a crisis where young people can't find jobs. And so I am not okay with us not trying to figure out how do we make sure that we're opening up the pathway for young people, especially a lot of times. And I know when I was there, providers, to get me wrong, a lot of times our kids also come back and work in the programs. So we gotta have these accommodations, because for me, again, all of this is about how are we being holistic. And so we should not be shutting out any opportunity for young people to get jobs. They can't go to McDonald's to get a job because you got to be 18. They can't work at Foot Locker. They can't work at the supermarket. And now we're saying they can't work in their community centers and their schools because of a requirement. So we have to figure it out as a city how to make sure we're opening it up. And so that's going to be my pushback, and us to figure it out, because that is a real thing and we can't not realize that.
I appreciate that. I want to add there is space in this concept paper for those young people as activity as
Oh no,
youth
we're gonna go
workers.
down because I got some issues with that
Okay,
too.
great. I mean,
Let's,
come in.
let's keep going.
Be a youth worker
Let's
and
keep
continue
going.
to develop your career path in our programs. 100%.
Yeah, let's keep going because I got some issues with that too. Has DYCD modeled the increasing hiring costs and vacancy risks that comes with raising the bar for the group leaders? Because we already know everybody's already struggling. So how do we even solve for that? And we can go to the youth workers too, because even with the youth workers, they have to be 16 years old to hold a high school diploma.
Or a year of working with young people. I mean,
at 16, you get your working papers at 15. No one's hiring you.
Yeah.
How do you have that experience?
I mean, we are not, look, we hire youth people all the time. It doesn't have to be professional experience. Some people have worked in the daycare at their church while people are in service. We have like people who have extensive experience with babysitting. Nobody's saying this has to be like professional experience necessarily, but we do want programs staffed with people who are responsible to work with young people. And I think that's what we're asking for here. I think we've built a role in for every young person in a community who's interested to work with young people. I think we have created a pathway for every young person who's interested in working with young people to work in a Compass program and continue to build their education and their skills and create a career path.
Again, I just want to make sure the language that we're putting out there, this will deter people, because they'll be like, I don't have experience with kids. I've never worked with kids. And then I'm sitting in an interview, because I've had to do this, like, all right, have you ever babysat? Have you ever done that? Like, we are Department of Youth. That's part of it. So we should be thinking about how are we making these attractive to the young people and not throw them off. And so what does that look like? And so I'm very clear about what this looks like. And we have to often do that. Be like, have you ever babysat? Like you said, oh, did you not watch your brother and sister at the park? We've had to coach them through those things, but understanding if we didn't coach them through, they wouldn't even know to come in. And so we have to make sure that as we are putting this out, it is clear, which is why I'm asking the question. So everybody heard that, right? They said they don't have experience. So if the program manager say you can't hire them, you're going to email Susan to let her know that she said it at the hearing that we are creating this pathway. So
Take that point. And I will say, CBO, are you creating volunteer opportunities for young people as they're coming up within program? We can work this out. We will work together to support our CBOs.
Y'all heard it, right? It's on the record. The concept paper includes 3 additional staff requirement positions for the center-based program. And this is not new. This has always been a thing. Security guard, front desk reception, and a janitor. Will additional funding be provided to center-based programs to hire those positions? If no additional funding is provided for those positions, how does DYCD expect providers to be able to run sustainable programs without the resources for school-based programs?
Well, I think I just want to start with the fact that, yes, these are roles that we've been asking for, that we see on the ground, and we wanted to establish it as a requirement moving forward, because it's not true for all. And in some cases, it's one person doing all 3 roles.
Oh, I know.
And we
it's usually the program director.
Yep, and sometimes it's the program director. And we wanted to make sure that in the concept paper, we're clear on what the vision is and taking into consideration what would that mean in terms of rates.
So is there more money in it for those programs? Because I didn't hear that. No? I don't know.
We are taking
Y'all
stakeholder
taking it into
engagement.
consideration?
Yes.
Okay. You're taking into consideration. I would like to point out, so I ran 3 community centers and 2 school-based programs, and there was always a deficit. The school-based program would have money to buy supplies and go on trips, and then my center-based programs were struggling with crayons because they had to have a front desk person and often a janitor, and a food person to do the food, and it was all these extra requirements. And so we have to look at how those models are different and make sure that we're funding them adequately. But I remember my school-based programs, they'll be like, oh, we're going on a trip, and I'm like, my community center is like, yeah, could we borrow crayons? It was a real thing.
You have been a consistent advocate for center-based programs, and we appreciate
Because
that.
nobody else does.
We are definitely taking that feedback
No one else
into
does.
consideration.
It's a different space where it's triple the work. Where you the janitor, you the cook, you doing all the things. You're building furniture, like it's all the things. I'm very multitasking because I had to be running 3 centers, working with the 3 weekly hours of professional development required in the concept paper. Some providers are concerned that this would push some staff over their threshold for qualify them for benefits. While this itself is not an issue, the increasing the staff costs for providers, has DYCD considered this, like the additional 3 hours?
Yeah, we did hear feedback around this. I think everyone certainly values, and to the point around creating career pathways, wants to make sure that we're building in time to support professional development across the board. Certainly heard feedback around wanting flexibility and what this looks like and how it's provided, to make sure everyone can meet it in a way that makes sense for their programs.
Yeah. The concept paper includes mental health components for after-school programs. Can DYCD clarify what specific responsibility contractors are expected to fulfill?
Sure. Yeah, I think as we all know, it's a mental health crisis among young people, and so DYCD wanted to be intentional in calling out that really folks who are in and staff who are in after-school programs are on the front lines, and make sure they're prepared with training and connections in the community and schools to be able to support that. So, as we lay out in the concept paper, there are training requirements to make sure folks have knowledge of some of the most common things that they might be encountering on the ground. And in addition, have the program director do kind of intentional work to make sure that they're building out referral plans, and kind of have a plan in place to be able to do that referral, either with school partners, if they're in a school setting and it's available, or with community-based partners.
How will DYCD support contractors in understanding the complex complying with HIPAA and other privacy regulations while dealing with sensitive mental health information?
So DYCD currently does provide, we have a capacity building provider who does do some mental health support trainings, and as these requirements roll out, we intend to make sure we're supporting folks with the rollout and working with our capacity building provider to make sure they're aligned with the new requirements.
Will DYCD provide a citywide referral list of youth mental health providers to help contractors make timely and appropriate connections?
That was feedback that we've gotten that we're taking back about whether the centralized curation and keeping that up to date is something that can be taken on at DYCD. We got feedback about how challenging it would be to handle locally. So we heard it, and we're factoring that into our deliberations.
Yeah, it's super challenging. And are you guys looking to take advantage of, maybe even with the mental health stuff? I know our chair, Lee, who did a lot of work around peer-to-peer mental health services for young people, and that's available. I know we passed a bill a couple of months ago where we can get young people trained and qualified through DOHMH. Is that something you guys are looking to take advantage of and make sure that young people to even kind of help support some of this mental health capacity stuff that you're looking to do?
Absolutely, and we have we've designated a new position within DYCD. I can't remember the title, but to help be like the senior advisor on mental health supports, and Shonda's been a great liaison to the Office of Community Mental Health. I think there may be an article today in Politico about a unique training called Ease that they implemented at some of the community centers and cornerstones in Brooklyn, that helped to work with middle school students around improving their peer network and with adult supports
Oh,
around
nice.
behavioral and mental health.
Oh, so they're doing
So,
the commissions.
yeah,
Okay.
we're definitely exploring all options around.
And so there's a new position where there's someone dedicated to do mental health supports for providers and give them guidance.
I would say, to coordinate those activities within DYCD to ensure that we're tapped into the resources like Denise described, so that we can be responsive to CBO needs.
Yeah, just, sometimes we have all these great ideas and initiatives and then everyone's not taking advantage. So I know, like I said, the peer-to-peer stuff, and we're going to be in a lot of schools. We want to make sure kids are, able to access that and using that and all the things. The next question I just have is around MWBEs. The concept requires contractors to purchase 30% of goods and supplies and services equipment from MWBEs. How did DYCD determine that this percentage, and is it realistic to achieve from all the contractors? And I just want to go over for saying, I love MWBEs, they're super important, but I know that it has been challenging sometimes with the list of MWBEs not being able to provide all the things. So I know this is not your fault, but like this is something I know Councilman Williams have been talking about, and Juan, who've been really pushing around MWBEs. It's just the list just isn't even comprehensive. And so a lot of times I know I've heard stories where providers will go on and they think they're looking at a STEM contractor and they're like HVAC systems. And you're like, well, you're not a STEM provider. Like, I don't understand how you are in this category. But if this is going to be a requirement, how's the city actually building out a comprehensive list so that providers can get the things that they need, because you're requiring 30% of goods be bought from MWBs.
Yeah, so just to clarify, the requirement in the concept paper is that the maximum is 30% of the total budget that could be subcontracted, and that that we strongly encourage the use of MWBEs. So it's not a requirement in the concept paper that 30% would be subcontracted to MWBEs.
Yeah, but the city really needs to build out that list, because we want to go to MWBEs to support the work. And there's so many across the city, but the requirements to get on that list is daunting, and it's just not comprehensive. So I really would love for the city to work on having more of a comprehensive list so providers can be using it. I think that is all the questions I have. I think. Councilman Williams, do you have any more questions? I think there's no one else here. Well, with that, I think I'm done with you. Thank you guys for coming in. We appreciate you being open and honest with all the questions. I do have, when we had looked on the site for the list of providers, it has the list of schools, but it doesn't have the providers attached. So if someone could send me the list of providers that were chosen for the schools, that'll be really helpful.
We can do that.
Yeah, we can
Thank
do
you.
that.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
I asked for Laura Lee to come to the dais.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Chair Stevens and members of the City Council Children and Youth Committee. My name is Laura Lai, and I'm the Senior Policy Analyst and Strategic Organizer for Education in the Office of New York City Comptroller Brad Lander. Today, I'm going to review the findings and recommendations from the 2 recent after-school reports published by our office and the survey of 627 school leaders. Following up on Councilmember Joseph and Menon's comments, I will focus on after-school for District 75 and students with disabilities. Our analysis found that in the new rollout, there are no District 75 programs that received any of the newly allocated after-school seats. The lack of D75 seats follows the findings of our report in June that children with disabilities face disproportionate lack of access to after-school. The lack of after-school bus transportation is the major barrier to after-school care citywide and a particular challenge for the 62,000 students with IEP-mandated school bus transportation as well as students in temporary housing. Another barrier is that District 75 programs do not have access to the primary source of after-school funding in the city, and that is DYCD-funded programs. None of the District 75 programs in our surveys have any DYCD-funded programming compared to nearly 50% of all the other respondents. In a letter sent to the comptroller on September 8th, DYCD Commissioner Howard indicated that the Compass program will expand access to after-school programming for students with disabilities. We appreciate DYCD's commitment to equity, as we heard earlier, but we believe this is very likely to be limited in scope. Saying that it's inclusive and making it inclusive are not the same thing. There are also inequities in City Council CASA grant allocations. Only 6% of D75 schools have CASA programs compared to 15% of other respondents. To advance equity and access to after school, we recommend that the City Council increase their investment in CASA for District 75 schools by $10 million, that the city create dedicated after school funding explicitly for District 75 programs, and that the city accelerate rebidding DOE school bus contracts to allow for after-school bus transportation. Thank you again for your opportunity to testify today.
Thank you. The Controller's Office completed and analyzed the initial 5,000 seats rollout of the mayor's DYCD Universal Aftercare expansion. According to the analyzing, not a single neighborhood public school in Manhattan or any DYCD school were awarded new seats. A large swoop of them were in Brooklyn, and Queens appears to be, which are underserved. In your analyzing, which district showed the largest mismatch between community needs and seat allocations?
Thank you for that question, Chair. We did not do a deep dive into where current seats are. We simply looked at the allocation of the 40 schools and the 5,000 seats. To say that there is not a single public school in Manhattan that needed more seats in this rollout seemed strange to us. That's not to say that the seats that were allocated went to communities that weren't in need and schools that were in need. But there were just some striking disparities in that rollout. For example, there was no seats in public schools in central Brooklyn. Most of the seats in Brooklyn were in neighborhoods like Dyker Heights and Bensonhurst. There was one charter school in all of Manhattan that got new seats. We heard some testimony about schools that lost their LEAPS funding. For example, we know of at least 3 schools, one in Upper Manhattan, 2 in District 30 in Queens, that lost their LEAPS funding and did not receive any seats. So that, questioning about whether there was really a serious effort to address schools that lost that state funding. And we can go back and forth about, well, that's the state and we're the city. But the fact is those are programs that had seats that no longer have them, and they were not part of the rollout. So those were the types of issues that we flagged in our analysis.
Your report shows no District 75 schools receive any of the newly allocated seats despite high needs. Did your office receive any explanation from DYCD or City Hall in this exclusion?
We did not. We have heard from advocates and parents that the currently contracted CBOs that DYCD uses simply do not have the staff and the capacity to meet the needs and challenges that District 75 students face. In terms of having to provide, as we heard earlier, paraprofessionals, trained paraprofessionals, having to provide related services, children who may need services as part of their after-school programming. Most CBOs do not necessarily have that capacity. So it's a combination of, you know, a mismatch in the currently contracted CBOs and the needs of District 75 programs, as well as just the overwhelming barrier that the lack of transportation provides. And this is really a DOE issue, and I'm not sure how aware this committee is of this, but those bus contracts that DOE has are from 1979.
Oh, I'm aware.
They do not provide for after school. They do not ensure that every student have air conditioning. They're so problematic, and we are in a situation right now where those contracts need to be extended. They expired in June. We are in a state of emergency contracts right now to keep those buses running. And we have an administration that looks like they are going to try to do a 5-year extension because they say the bus companies won't settle for anything less. And that will take us into the next decade before we resolve this problem. So we need the political will. We have a great legal department in this city. We need them to get with the program and get us some new bus contracts the way DYCD did with their contracts. I mean, that's to be applauded that they are rebidding those contracts. The bus contracts have to be rebid as well. And until that happens, there won't be universal after school.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it took us 10 years to get this RFP, so
I know.
I don't know how well that we did there. But I mean, I do hear, and I know Chair Joseph has been pushing hard on that topic, and I feel like even Dr. Williams even said in one of the hearings where it's like we could probably start up our own bus company as a city and save money opposed to contracting it out.
Well, and also, I mean, I'm just throwing this out there. This is not, you know, you may remember when we set up that horrible shelter out on Flatbush Avenue for families seeking asylum, that the city actually contracted coach buses. There was a hearing on it. They contracted coach buses to provide transportation to the families that were living in those tents out there. And we need to be creative. We need to do something to ensure that children who have IEP mandated bus transportation, children who by statute, by McKinney-Vento, who are living in temporary housing have legally mandated bus transportation, that those students can do the after-school play, they can play on the soccer team, they can go to Lego robotics in after school. And it is just simply unacceptable that this city cannot do that for those children.
I mean, I agree. It's really unfortunate. I remember there were so many young people who wanted to be a part of the program but would not have had a way to get home. So they weren't able to go, or they would come in for the first 30 minutes and then have to be pulled away because the bus was coming to pick them up. And so, you know, we would do creative things like if there was like a half day and we're doing a, you know, vacation camp, we would always like try to include them. But it is really unfortunate for those who have those issues. And a lot of times these are some of our foster care children who need to have additional resources.
Foster care children as well.
Enrichment. So I'm in total agreement and in support of us trying to come up with a real solution for this.
And you're probably aware that children with mandated bus transportation have to leave Summer Rising.
Oh, I know.
When the DOE portion is over because they cannot stay. So imagine being a student who relies on bus transportation. All your friends are now going off on a field trip to the pool, and you have to get on your bus and go home. I mean, this is like an inequity that we as a city should be able to solve.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that we have to continue to push to the front of the conversation.
Yes.
And I will say this, I think, before Summer Rising, because everybody know that is not my favorite program, but what it has done is highlight how when we want something to work, we'll figure it out.
Yes.
And so we can figure this out in that same way, because before that, a lot of students with disabilities weren't even in camp because there was no option. So we were able to figure that out, and so we could figure out how to keep them there for full day programs. So I fully understand that and want to make sure that we continue to push it to the front of the conversation. I just have a couple more questions. Did your office identify any patterns in which neighborhoods or school types were favored? For example, charter school versus traditional schools, or low needs versus high needs districts?
No. What we identified, and there's a map in that report that you can refer to, is simply that there are very high needs neighborhoods that did not receive any seats. That's not to say that the neighborhoods and the schools and the communities that did receive seats didn't have high needs as well. But I'll use Upper Manhattan and Central Brooklyn. If you look at the map in terms of the agency testified earlier that ENI, Economic Need Index, was one of the metrics that they used to determine whether they should allocate seats. And those two areas of the city have very high ENI values across the board. And so it begs the question as to why there were no seats allocated there.
What steps do you recommend the City Council takes to ensure future allocations are transparent and equitable?
I think having announcing what the metrics are up front in terms of the evaluation. I think, just as an example, the Department of Education did this past year sent out a survey to principals to ask them how they would like to meet class size. The Department of Education allocated additional funding this school year to schools that had a plan for meeting the new class size law. And it was a very deliberate process. They sent the survey out in December. Principals had to fill out an application. They responded. They said, this is what I'm going to do to resolve class size at my school. I need 10 more teachers. And that plan was evaluated by the Department of Education, and many, many schools got that funding. There should be a deliberative process that takes place. There should be public engagement. Stakeholders such as parents, principals. It should be as public and transparent as possible. We heard from a number of parents who reached out to, their first inclination was reach out to DOE and say, is our school getting more after-school seats? Why didn't we get more after-school seats? And there was nobody who could answer their question as to what the metrics were that were used and why some schools got them and some schools didn't. So I think having an intentionality and a deliberative, transparent process around the future rollout of seats would, alleviate a lot of the questions that came about as a result of the way it was done this time around.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you can hear the questions I had. I was very clear about like how are they chosen and how did that even become public? And like they said, they had put it on the website, but we looked and it wasn't there. And so it is important for there to be transparency. And here's the thing: we want all of our kids to have access to this. And I think it's not, good versus bad or whatever. It's just like, how do we make sure we have all the information so that, and also take feedback. So I agree with you there. But thank you for coming in to testify. I don't know if Councilmember Williams has any questions. So thank you for coming in to testify.
And thank you, Chair, for your attention to this. It's so important, and we really appreciate your work in this space.
Oh, it's my job. You don't have to thank me to do my job, but thank you. I've now opened the hearing for public testimony. I remind members of the public that this is a formal government proceeding and that decorum shall be observed at all times. As such, members of the public shall remain silent at all times. The witness table is reserved for people who wish to testify. No video recording or photography is allowed from the witness table. Further, members of the public may not present audio or video recordings as testimony, but they may submit transcript of such recordings to the Sergeant at Arms at the conclusion of the hearing. If you wish to speak today, please fill out an appearance card from the Sergeant of Arms and wait to be recognized. When recognized, you have 2 minutes to speak on today's hearing topic. after school expansion and DYCD concept paper. If you have written testimony or additional statements you wish to submit for the record, please provide a copy to the Sergeant of Arms. I will now call our first panel. Chelsea Bainbram, Nora, Sarah Jones, Annie Mingus, Faith Behum. I know I butchered all your names, so please state your name for the record when you come to the front.
Oh, we need an extra chair.
Oh, I think they said we need an extra chair. You guys are waiting for me. That's so cute.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, go do the thing.
Good afternoon, Chair Stevens and members of the City Council. My name is Chelsea Badamore, and I am the Director of Policy and Advocacy at the YMCA of Greater New York. The Y is one of the city's largest human service providers with 24 branches and more than 100 community sites. Every day, nearly 15,000 children and teens come through our after-school programs at Beacons, Compass, Sonic, Cornerstones, and community schools, where we provide academic support, enrichment, and a safe, nurturing space for our youth. We are grateful to the Chair and to the City Council for your steadfast advocacy and partnership in securing a historic investment in after school. And while the administration made this preliminary commitment, we urge DYCD to use this upcoming RFP as an opportunity to strengthen a severely outdated system. Well, I'm the first one, but echoing our colleagues at the Campaign for Children, who will also highlight on these issues, we remain deeply concerned that outdated rates, unfunded staffing mandates, and unclear summer planning will strain providers and jeopardize program quality. A stable workforce, flexibility with requirements, and fully funded programs are essential if we are to deliver on the promise of high quality after school. As you all shared earlier, at the state level, New York City lost nearly 7,000 after school slots under LEAPS, with the greatest impact in the Bronx, Queens, and Staten Island. At the federal level, funding for 21st century community learning centers and other key youth programs is also threatened, not to mention other essential streams like SNAP, Medicare, Head Start, who are also at risk. And these programs work in tandem to holistically serve families and support the continuity of care. Any disruption ultimately harms our communities with negative repercussions for years to come, and we cannot afford to shortchange our children in any way. The administration has a critical opportunity right now to step up, invest, and create a stronger after-school system that truly meets the needs of New Yorkers. Very quickly, on the topic of summer, which is one of the Y's most cherished programs, we served more than 17,000 children last year, including 5,600 through Summer Rising. The concept paper leaves major gaps, offering little clarity on Sonic summer programming rates and whether providers will have ownership over summer models. We need this information. We cannot wait until the last minute. We also need stronger coordination between DYCD and NYCPS, like you mentioned earlier, Chair, especially for the continuous support of our children, especially those with disabilities who should be receiving their mandated supports beyond the academic day. There's more of this in my submitted testimony, and the YMCA looks forward to working with you to make sure every child and family in New York City has access to after school. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Stevens and the members of the Committee of the Children and Youth Committee for hosting this, and thank you for hosting this oversight hearing. My name is Annie Minguez. I'm the Vice President of Government and Community Relations at Good Shepherd Services. We operate over 100 programs that support over 33,000 children and families across the Bronx, Manhattan, and Brooklyn. Good Shepherd Services is also part of the Campaign for Children and shares in the concerns outlined in the letter we sent to the administration about the concept paper, which has been submitted for the record. Good Shepherd Services also submitted a response to the concept paper, which we will also include for the record. That really outlines our concerns about the proposed staffing model and role qualifications. I wanted to focus my testimony, my verbal testimony, on this goal that we have as a city have around reaching universality. This expansion that the administration is attempting to do is just another way for us to possibly get there. And yet the proposed cuts to 21st century federal funding stream, which supports after-school programming, and the changes to the LEAPS program threaten our progress. We will need to work together to advocate to the state so they understand the need for them to support after-school program in the budget next year. For the record, I am including the budget priorities for the New York State Network for Youth Success, which is one of 50 statewide after-school networks. I would like to highlight the following state challenges with implications that implicate New York City with the changes from LEAPS. New York City lost almost 7,000 state-funded after-school slots through LEAPS. Losses are concentrated, as Chelsea mentioned, in high-need boroughs, the Bronx, Queens, and Staten Island. We continue to work with you and the City Council to address these inequities.
Thank you to Chair Stevens, the Children and Youth Committee, and the New York City Council for the opportunity to present testimony today. My name is Sarah Jonas, and I'm the Vice President of the Youth Division at Children's Aid. For over 170 years, Children's Aid has worked to ensure that 50,000 young people each year face no limits to their aspirations or potential. In service of this mission, we operate 17 Compass and Sonic after-school programs across New York City, serving more than 3,100 youth annually in our 5 community centers and the majority of our 19 community schools. These programs are a critical lifeline for families, but they can only be successful if contracts cover the true cost of staffing and operations. Years of stagnant rates and repeated contract extensions have left providers stretched thin, making it harder to retain qualified staff, a challenge that will only intensify amid federal and state funding uncertainties. We are encouraged that city leaders have highlighted after-school expansion as a priority for working families and emphasized the importance of skilled staff and mental health services. Yet the proposed rates in DYCD's concept paper fall short of what providers need to sustain programs, let alone expand staff qualifications and mental health programs. A 2023 analysis by United Neighborhood Houses found that the actual cost of compliant after-school programs is $10,700 per participant for full-year Compass and $5,500 for school-year Sonic programs. By contrast, DYCD's concept paper proposes just $6,800 for full-year Compass and $3,900 for school-year Sonic programs for the entire 6-year contract. At these levels, providers will recover only 60 to 70% of costs in year 1, with the gap widening over time. We urge the agency to both raise the base rate in year 1 and to incorporate annual adjustments tied to a benchmark or through modest increases built into the contract term. Regarding mental health, we ask that DYCD either define and adequately fund a staff role equipped to provide these services or to scale back direct requirements and instead support providers in building strong referral protocols and networks. Without these corrections, the city risks weakening the very programs it seeks to strengthen, leaving families without reliable after-school options and widening inequities across our communities. Thank you again for the opportunity to testify. We look forward to continuing to partner on expanding and strengthening our city's network of after-school programs and are happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Stevens and members of the Committee on Children and Youth for holding this hearing and the opportunity to testify. My name is Faith Bayham, and I am a manager of government and external relations at UJA Federation of New York. UJA supports an expansive network of nearly 100 nonprofit organizations, including those who oversee Compass and Sonic programs. UJA is grateful that the Adams administration has recognized the importance of after-school programs by increasing Compass slots and introducing a Compass Sonic concept paper that aims to improve the system. When the concept paper was released, we met with nonprofit partners in the UJA network who oversee Compass and Sonic programs to discuss their thoughts on the paper. There were 11 different topics detailed in our written testimony, and we also submitted those to the administration back in July for feedback that we are concerned about, and I'm just going to highlight a few here. First is timeline. So contracts are proposed to begin August 1st, 2026, with programming to begin September 1st, 2026. Just finding staff and training them in 4 weeks is extremely difficult, let alone all the other planning that running a new after-school program entails. Because as we all know, we can't pay people before the contract starts. Contracts must begin to allow sufficient time for developing programs. And we're also urging that programs be awarded contracts so people just simply find out that they've been chosen to oversee programs at least 4 months before programming starts to provide enough time for nonprofits to secure SAC licenses. Timeliness of compensation was not addressed in the concept paper. Currently, many nonprofits with DYCD contracts have been waiting years to be compensated for completed work. DYCD must include language in the RFP that will detail their commitment to encompass contracts receiving prompt payment. How attendance will be defined is also an issue. The concept paper states Compass and Sonic programs will maintain 100% enrollment throughout the year. How is DYCD defining 100% enrollment for school year programs? It's sometimes difficult to have families commit to attending program 5 days a week due to their child being involved in other after-school activities. Is there going to be any flexibility for providers with meeting this enrollment target? The concept paper is a good starting point towards developing an after-school system that more sufficiently rewards providers for their work and will strengthen programs for children. We thank you for this opportunity to testify, and we look forward to working with the City Council and administration on improving after-school programs for all New York City children and youth.
Hi, thank you so much for the chance to testify. My name is Nora Moran. I'm the Director of Policy and Advocacy at United Neighborhood Houses. We represent New York City settlement houses who are serving thousands of youth through Compass, Sonic, Cornerstones, Beacons, you name it, they do it. Our comments are really in our testimony, largely mirror what we submitted in our concept paper and largely mirror what a lot of my colleagues said already. A couple things we'd like to uplift. We agree the time for a concept paper and an RFP is now. We have waited way too long. We're operating on a very outdated system. However, we have to do it the right way to build a system up for success if we're ever going to get to a point where we have universal after school. A couple specific comments around the price per participant. We agree that it's too low. We did a lot of research into what would a model budget look like. This proposed model budget falls short. That directly ties to some of our concerns around staffing and the staff qualifications, just specifically to that line of questioning earlier around, we're coaching young people through helping them understand what's experience and DYCD kind of giving that clarification. We also need to keep in mind if the employer doesn't know what 1 year of experience is, we don't want them interpreting that really narrowly and saying, well, I can't hire this young person because maybe their experience is something that DYCD isn't going to consider to be experience and it's going to be an issue down the line. So having those requirements out would be ideal. If they're going to be in there, they need to be really clear what that means. On summer, right, we're glad to see that we're including 12-month elementary contracts. Really concerned about the middle school piece and that's not defined. UNH has also been on the record for many years raising concerns around the summer rising model, wanting there to be choice and options for providers and families and for schools to work out what is the best summer programming for them to do. Our members run alternative summer models. They would love to be able to, do those in their school-based sites, and they cannot because of their rigid adherence to summer rising. And then the last piece we'd say around mental health, agree that those roles and expectations need to be very clearly defined. There's not funding right now to have a social worker and really provide robust mental health programming. So either there needs to be strong referrals or looking at, the Department for the Aging actually has some interesting models around putting mental health programs in senior centers. Are there things to be learned there when we're looking at putting mental health programs in schools and in after school programs? So encouraging that bigger thinking would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess I have a couple of questions, and I know, Annie, you had spoke a little bit about some of the state challenges that you guys have faced. Could you go to a little bit more detail around what it has looked like for the state to kind of shrink their program, and how's that been felt? And I'm sure everybody has state programs, so yeah, everybody can chime in, but I know she had brought up state specifically.
Thank you for that question, Chair. I think like one of the pieces that we continue to uplift is that LEAPS as it exists right now excludes students between the ages of 13 and 17. So this is really leaving older young people without sufficient support. In New York City, we did the universal middle school program. I remember when we finally got that baselined.
I know.
But as Nora mentioned, still we don't know about summer. So, and then there's a new RFP that the Office of Children and Family Services put out that's called the Boost Pilot. And that's really narrow in scope, and it excludes New York City except for specialized high schools. So that's really one of the, in addition to the pieces of like the communities that have been most impacted and now have seen this void, it's this piece around who's being served that we're very concerned about.
Yeah, I would really like for us to work on an advocacy plan with the state folks this year, holistically around just talking about the gaps that we're seeing from the state side around funding, because I do believe it's like super important that we're holding them accountable as well, especially again as the city is expanding. We want it to be felt, and for me it doesn't feel like it's going to be felt because we're kind of just filling in the gaps that the state kind of pulled out from us. Um, the other question I had, I know everyone talks specifically around the per participant rate and why that is going to be challenging with this new RFP. If folks could just like succinctly go into a little bit more detail of like what you foresee with that issue and where do you think the deficits will fall?
I mean, I think a big area where I think the biggest issue is that providers are going to hire staff at wage points that are just not competitive with the broader labor market, right? If you can earn minimum wage in an after-school program, but $20 an hour at insert retail store here, young people are going to take those other jobs. We've had this conversation with our members a lot. Working with kids is hard. It's rewarding, but it's hard. It's exhausting.
I miss it, but it was a lot of work.
Yeah, like you have to go through a background check. It's not just a sort of simple, like, we'll hire you tomorrow sort of thing. It's really important if we're ever going to have a pipeline of people who are, program leaders, teachers, right, who want to work, mental health counselors who want to enter into a service profession working with young people, whether it's after school or something else. We've found that that first job in an after school program is really important. But if it's not made to be attractive or just viable and workable for young people, they're going to go work somewhere else. Same the higher up you go, right? Our members have a hard time hiring program directors and other sort of supervisor level staff. That kind of translates into, okay, if you don't have strong staff there, you're not going to have someone really coaching an entry level field of people to move up into these other positions. And so, is our programs going to run deficits? I don't know, right? I would hope they would have a balanced budget, but I think we're just losing an opportunity to have a solid pipeline of people entering into the field later on. And then also, right, this is something that's been hard to quantify, but how many providers, have times when they can't open because they can't safely meet ratio? That's another thing that like the state does tie our hands, right? They have certain ratios they need in place in terms of staffing. And so if that's the case, we need
and
to pay
educational
for
requirements.
that. Yeah,
And
we need to pay for that.
yeah.
I'll just add, there's new requirements that are going to be coming down. So when we look at the UNH report and we're at the 10,000 and we land at 6,000 and providers are already struggling with what they had, I don't even know that we're breaking even at 6,000. I just want to make sure that I say that. And so we're going to find ourselves navigating hiring more people probably to meet some of those requirements. And we're already having a shortage of staff that are able to do this work. And as Nora mentioned, and I think that's really important, is that these are professionals, youth and family development professionals that later go on to work in different positions throughout our agency. And I can think of, and we probably, all of us can think of so many people that have done that. And you mentioned that, Chair. And I think that, with all these new requirements, we might be losing the mark on ensuring that that's what's happening in these programs.
If I could
Okay.
just add very quickly, as I think another important part of this, right, is that when we talk about delivering the high quality programs that our young people, our young New Yorkers deserve, there's also that piece around, professionalizing this whole, that this is a career, right? And what it means to professionalize is like, we're demanding more too, like we're providing, training and sort of professional development for these young people as part of this pipeline. And I think that also then begs the question, like, are we paying these folks at the rates that they deserve, or we're asking for this level of professionalism and demanding it because that's what young people deserve, right? So I just wanted to make that point as well.
I guess my last question, and this is to Nora, who I know is at UNH, and this executive order that came out on Friday around the Commission on Universal After School. I just wanted to uplift the report that you guys have done and released on how to get to universal after school. So, so if you can talk a little bit about that work and how hopefully that's being used as a guideline for the work that this commission will be doing.
Yeah, so our executive director sits on the commission. We'll be in any place and space where we're talking about after school, and we'll come and share our work and our research. I think that the report that we wrote really looks at mapping and space and trying to highlight neighborhoods where there's not access right now to make sure that as we're planning for the future that we're really looking at those areas. We found that we're much closer to achieving universal access for middle school programming than for elementary school programming. I think we were there for middle school under de Blasio and a backslid, but elementary is certainly where there's a really big gap. Just looking at maps, and they're all kind of linked in the report, the majority of neighborhoods in New York City have limited access to after school for elementary age children. And there's 22 NTAs in New York City that contain an elementary school that have no publicly funded after school program. And so that, is a really concern, right? Like there's just parts of the city that just simply have no access. And even though that, we know there's higher levels of economic hardship, there's a lot of NTAs in the Bronx that have very limited access to elementary and middle school after school programming. And that is the borough that we saw some of the biggest divestment from with the new LEAPS awards. We had a couple Bronx providers who just lost out, right? And they were approved but not funded, whatever that designation was. So their bids were quality, and they said, if we had enough money, we would put it here, but they just didn't. And so, that our concern is really making sure that as we're doing a new RFP, that we're really looking at neighborhoods where there's not a lot of access, that we're taking the steps to actually build provider capacity there. We can't just kind of say, okay, we'll we had a similar issue with the literacy RFP a couple years ago, right? Prioritizing certain neighborhoods. There wasn't necessarily a qualified organization there. And so we hope that as we're looking toward expansion, that the city also takes steps in coordination with the council, since you all are often really closely connected to small organizations, trying to build up some of that capacity in areas where there's little access.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the questions I was asking today that, I wish they would have reached out to the council members around this expansion, and if they're doing capacity building for some of the small organizations. I've had so many colleagues reach out to me with that same request. And so, I'm always urging city agencies to work in partnership with us because, sometimes we just have access that they might not or overlook. But thank you guys so much for your testimony. I really appreciate it. And I will be calling the next panel. May DePario, William Jordan, Paula, is that a Q? Magnus, and Jenny Inger. Please repeat your names when you get up here, because I know I'll be butchering everyone's name, and I apologize in advance.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is May DePiro, and I am Policy Associate at Advocates for Children of New York. We are pleased that the city has committed to expanding access to after-school programs with the goal of adding 20,000 more seats over the next 3 school years. However, for many students who are currently left out of after-school programs, adding seats is not sufficient to provide access. We have heard from families of students with disabilities who have been turned away from after-school programs with the explanation that the providers are not able to meet their needs. This type of exclusion is unacceptable and illegal. While the DYCD concept paper noted that contractors should provide additional supports or services to enable full participation by those with special needs, the city must do more to ensure students with disabilities can participate. The city should develop well-publicized systems for parents to request and the city to provide any accommodations and supports a student with a disability may need to fully participate in after-school programming. We recommend that responsibility for this process lie with the city and not individual community-based organizations in order to standardize the process. The city should also ensure that after-school programs are available to students attending District 75 schools. We also hear from families of students with disabilities, students in temporary housing, and students in foster care who rely on bus service to get home and cannot participate in after-school programs because bus service is only available at the end of the regular school day. The city must provide these students with bus service or alternative workable transportation from after-school programs as it is legally required to do. The city has indicated that it must rebid the 45-year-old school bus contracts in order to add after-school bus service, and we urge the city to do so as soon as possible. The city will not be able to realize the mayor's vision of after school for all unless it ensures that programs are equipped to meet the needs of all students. Our written testimony includes more information and recommendations. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Chair Stevens and the esteemed members of the council, thank you so much for this opportunity to testify. My name is Paula Magnus, and I'm the Deputy Director at Northside Center for Child Development, one of the community-based organizations. We're 80 years old in behavioral health clinic and community-based organization providing a broad range of services, including after-school programming for children with special needs. We serve thousands of children and family annually across the Bronx, Brooklyn, and Harlem. And at Northside, we have experienced firsthand DYDC's commitment to quality through their oversight of our after-school and summer day camp programs. We have children from ages 5 to 12. Again, those with special needs. They collect data on our program to see what the outcomes are. And as we know, that's extremely important to make sure our programs are productive. We all know what the research has shown, how it improves the outcome academically and all of the other things that are beneficial from these types of programs. So we respectfully urge the council to review as you've been doing, and it's great to hear the questions and the comments, Chair Stevens, that you've made, because clearly you know what you're talking about. So we really understand that we have to be cost sensitive to what's going to be the outcome, and we want to make these few points to ensure full cost covering of services, and one cost doesn't fit all. Annual rate adjustments in line with cost of living increases, and allocating for startup time more than what's been allowed. So again, we just want to testify to give you encouragement to continue doing what you're doing and making sure that we're able to serve the children and the families in New York City in a proud way with quality and respect. Thank you for this opportunity.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair Stevens. Blessings to you all, council members, distinguished guests. My name is William Jourdain, and I am the Executive Director of Woodside on the Move, a nonprofit that provides after-school programming, housing services, tenant advocacy, and community development for families across Queens for nearly 5 decades now. Every September, parents breathe a sigh of relief as school begins, but for working families, the hours after school ends remain a challenge. After-school programs are not a luxury, they are essential. They reinforce academics, provide safe environments, deter risky behaviors, and allow parents to fully participate in the workforce. There are infrastructure for families, as we all know here. Yet too many neighborhoods remain after-school deserts. While the city expanded seats to 220,000 students this summer, nearly 392,000 children remain without access. At Woodside on the Move, our wait list alone exceeds over 100 students annually, which is a clear sign of unmet need. Universal after school would be transformative. With adequate support, we could serve up to 150 more students, hiring an additional of 10 to 15 staff members, including guidance counselors, social workers, while also improving salaries so we can retain the educators our students depend on. But for universal after school to succeed, systemic barriers must be addressed. Too often, nonprofits are forced into competition for limited funding instead of being supported to collaborate. Last year, Woodside on the Move worked tirelessly to launch an after-school program in a new school within our community. We invested significant time, energy, and even absorbed a revenue loss because we knew how critical it was for the students, families, and the principal to have this resource. We moved forward without the understanding that a future RFP pipeline through DYCD would help sustain the program. Instead, DYCD relocated another provider into the same school without our knowledge. The contract was then split between us and a much larger nonprofit with far greater resources. The outcome was not one strong, cohesive program serving 120 students, but two diluted programs in the same building, leaving families confused and children underserved. This practice pits nonprofits against one another, it wastes resources, and ultimately undermines program quality. We have to appropriately strategize and implement equitable actions for Universal After School in order for it to succeed. Universal After School must be accessible to all students, regardless of income or grade level, equitably funded so nonprofits can collaborate instead of compete, supported with timely payments and and access to school facilities after hours. I'm laughing because I think we all know what we're talking about here. Thank you, Chair, because you are at the helm and you know what you're doing and talking about.
That's right.
Thank you, Councilmember Stevens and committee. I'm Jenny Ingber. I work with Chess in the Schools, CEO and president. Thank you for being incredible supporters of our work in New York City schools. I'm testifying today as an after-school provider that does very niche work in clearly the expertise of teaching chess to children. In looking at this RFP and trying to imagine where we fit within this ecosystem, you had talked about the enrichment universe, and the RFP very much targets, as William suggested, these large organizations who could provide a lot of different kinds of content in multiple areas, focusing on STEM, literacy, social emotional learning, and then there's a small little bucket of other activities. We fall into that other activities category. Last year, across our 48 schools, we worked with nearly 1,000 students. 24 of our schools are on the Compass list, the rest are not. And there's about 29 different CBOs that we counted up that serve, I was just trying to do my research based on what is available. 29 different CBOs that work in the different schools that we're in. So I'm coming to you as a potential contractor fitting into that narrow 30% of the total budget of what other folks would be applying for, and asking that there also be some direction around subcontracting. You referred to the mental health support referral process, but I think there's also some of us out here within the ecosystem who provide really rich, high quality programs for students that would fit into that same bucket. And I would love to see some matchmaking and opportunities for us as people who do receive funding through you all, through DYCD pass-through, to be able to continue our work in this after-school space. The other two items that I have that I just want to quickly mention, providing flexibility for CBOs that do obtain funding to change their subcontractors annually, assuming that they may find new opportunities and new partners as they go, especially given the current timeline, and allow for us to serve as both professional development providers and direct service in the space alongside these larger organizations. Thank you so much for your time and listening and continued support of our organization.
Thank you all for your testimony. I don't have any questions for this panel. Thank you guys so much for being here, and your work is very much appreciated. Kimberly Olson, Karen Joe Qual. All right, clearly we cannot read up here. We have some literacy issues. Sharon Show, Martha and Hannah Allen. Do you want me to do the Zoom ones? Yeah. So those of you who have come to my hearings before, we know that young people gets deference here. So you will be able to start the panel until they get deference. Sorry, that's just my rule.
Good afternoon. My name is Martha Soriano. I'm an 8th grader at Charles O. Dewey in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. I've been participating in Center for Family Life after school program at my school since 6th grade. Some of my favorite parts of after school have been performing and using my voice through acting. I love becoming characters and seeing others' perspectives and how they compare to mine. Since 6th grade, I've performed in 4 shows with Center for Family Life, and I am planning to audition for Performing Arts High School next year. For what I love most about my after-school program is the variety of clubs and the program offers. Some people like sports, some like to perform, some like visual arts or STEM. And at my program, they all have those options, and we all get to experience all the choices. I feel like middle school kids won't be happy about going to an after-school program where they follow a set schedule at all, because kids are interested in different things like sports or arts, and some kids are good at certain things and want to explore certain things. We should be given the opportunity to get to know more people and not have to stay in the same group all day, like we did in elementary school programs. To me, a good after-school program for middle school kids looks like a wide variety of sports and arts, including culinary arts, allowing people to pick what they want and not making people to go to a set schedule for activities because that's forced. Also, there should be summer camp for middle school students. I have participated in the last 2 summers at Center for Family Life, but I don't come to the academic part of the day because it's too early. And I didn't need the help or support that was being offered because I had learned all the subjects in the school year. The camp activities gave me more experience in building communication skills and helped me build stronger bonds with my friends and participated in the activities I like. Thank you, Chair Stevens and the New York City Council on Children and Youth for the opportunity to express my opinion about what middle school kids would like to see in after-school and summer programs.
Good afternoon, Chair Stevens and the rest of the Children and Youth Committee. Thank you for hosting me today. My name is Shannon Shaw, and I am Vice President of Strategic Partnerships at HeartShare. HeartShare is a human services agency that's been around for 150 years. We serve over 10,000 children and families across New York City every year. We provide a continuum of services, including foster care, mental health supports, housing, education, and after-school programming. After school is a critical component of our work, ensuring children are safe, they have enriching environments outside of school hours, while supporting parents who are navigating poverty, burnout, complex family dynamics, justice involvement, and employment schedules that often do not align with school hours. As a mom, I think it's the greatest scam that school lets out at 3 p.m. and then work lets out at 5 p.m. So for us, I believe that youth in foster care and people with disabilities need and deserve significantly more opportunities for them to thrive. After-school programming provides stabilized families. They keep children safe and provide peace of mind for working parents. For youth, these programs build confidence, promote academic success, enhance literacy learning, and provide exposure to arts, STEM, leadership, and cultural opportunities. In response to DYCD's Compass and Sonic concept paper, it is an important step in the city's commitment to expand after-school access. However, we encourage the city, the council, and DYCD to prioritize the adequate funding rates. So the rates have must fully ensure and cover staffing, supplies, and facilities. Currently, DYCD's their per student rate is between 30 to 40% below the cost of running quality programming. Additionally, we need to meet the populations in the community. And so we want to ensure that they're investing in the language needs of our populations that we serve, as well as the intentionally serving people with disabilities, English language learners, and students in historically underserved communities. According to the After School Alliance, 48% of after-school programs are at risk of closing. And this was a 2024 stats. And we want to, of course, uplift a lot of what my colleagues have said before about the continuity and the sustainability of this. Those transition times that have been outlined in the concept paper, they should not disrupt services. Additionally, I believe providers need a more reasonable and stable preparation time, more than a month, to recruit and retain qualified staff and plan programming effectively. For our individuals with disabilities and also our kids in foster care, we want to make sure that we're being culturally competent in our hiring practices, and this takes a lot more time than a month. In conclusion, after-school programming is not an add-on. For many families across New York City, it is a lifeline. And on behalf of Heart Share St. Vincent's and the thousands of families we serve, I urge the council to ensure that the RFP and the implementation of the after-school expansion reflects the real needs of the communities and providers and children. More importantly, and most importantly, the youth and children we serve. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Karen Jolie Kerr, the Executive Director of Creative Artworks, a 39-year-old youth development nonprofit working in the visual and multimedia arts. It's my pleasure to speak with you today about arts education and creative youth development as vital, necessary components of high-quality out-of-school time programs. We were delighted to learn about the forthcoming expansion of meaningful enrichment for New York City kids outside the school day. After all, study after study corroborates our own experience employing the arts as a catalyst for every one of the goals outlined in DYCD's theory of change: civic engagement, youth empowerment, pro-social behaviors, and connection, literacy, family engagement, and employment access and skills development. The heightened emphasis on partnerships with other community-based organizations outlined in the concept paper is prudent, even inspired. Nonprofits like ours, which of course can't qualify as MWBEs, by the way, bring not only greater capacity and additional financial resources, but also expertise. And truly, quality matters. Our professional teaching artists bring not only well-developed artistic practice to the table, but also receive ongoing professional development and guidance from our program staff in curriculum development, lesson planning, positive and creative youth development, and social-emotional learning. It's no surprise, then, that this past academic year, 93% of our elementary and middle school students attested to being more excited to come to school on the days when they had creative artworks in or after school. We know that quality arts experiences outside the school day are correlated with positive academic behaviors and, further, are a vehicle for every one of the 6 goals outlined on page 7 of the concept paper. Our assets-based approach embeds and enhances creativity, collaboration, cross-cultural communication, critical thinking, and workforce skills. Where the contemplated structure falls short, then, is in excluding the arts from the program requirements and relegating these instead to the extra optional, if you can squeeze it in after the rest section of the proposal. Why STEM and not STEAM? Can applicants not incorporate literacy-based arts integration to fulfill the literacy component? Could creative youth development programs with demonstrated impacts on social-emotional learning fulfill the SEL requirements? New York City is one of the cultural centers of the world, and even so, access to meaningful creative education and experience remains a pronounced issue of equity and disparity. In furtherance of DYCD's own stated goals, we urge them and you to incorporate the arts as a required component of OST programs. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Stevens, for hosting today's oversight hearing. My name is Kim Olson, and I'm proud to be the Executive Director of the New York City Arts and Education Roundtable. We are a nonprofit arts service organization that works with thousands of artists, arts educators, as well as hundreds of arts organizations across our city. I'm here to advocate for the crucial role of arts education in our after-school programs. Arts as you've heard, are a critical access point for guiding student inquiry, dialogue, critical thinking, career readiness, and literacy development. I myself was a teaching artist in after-school programs for many, many years and can attest to having students that would come to school merely because they knew we were going to rehearse Schoolhouse Rock Live, Junior the Musical, or to work on our original play about Rosa Parks. It is those, New York City has really excellent existing arts and cultural infrastructure that could be a vital resource and is a vital resource in this work. Existing models like the New York City Public Schools Arts Partnership Grants, as well as CASA, provide strong examples of how artists and our city's world-class organizations can be partners in creating enriching after-school programs. We know at the roundtable from surveying our community that artists are seeking sustained work opportunities. And I can't think of something more sustained than after school on a daily basis throughout the school year, and have the background to provide high quality instruction, but simply don't know that these subcontractor opportunities exist. We urge the City Council to consider the following recommendations to ensure that arts education is a central component of after-school expansion. Those include shifting from STEM to STEAM, ensuring that arts is a vital role in student development and engagement in this opportunity, soliciting proposals with robust arts components and recognizing the full costs associated with providing professional arts instruction, encouraging partnerships with artists and arts organizations, filling those activity specialist roles with highly qualified teaching artists, and uplifting available opportunities to subcontract through opportunities such as an after-school matching fair, through targeted information campaigns, and our partnerships with New York City's Department of Cultural Affairs. And of course, I'll also say to uplift nonprofits and equity initiatives. When uplifting the call to engage minority and women-owned business enterprises, also uplift nonprofits, many of whom are historically founded and led by folks of color alongside women, but are simply unable to earn MWE status as exists currently. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I do not have any questions for this panel at this time.
Thank you. Just want to do one last call and make sure there's no one in the room that we didn't call that wanted to testify. Oh, Hannah. Did you call Hannah?
Oh.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Stevens and the committee for the opportunity to provide feedback on the upcoming RFPs and DYC-funded after-school programs. My name is Hannah Allen, and I'm a program director at the Center for Family Life in Sunset Park, which you got to hear a little bit about from Martha. We have successfully run 3 Compass Elementary School programs, 2 Compass Sonic programs, and until its sudden termination, a high school Compass Explorer program, and we're deeply invested in making sure we have robust and great after-school programs available to our youth. We are glad that the city is investing in these, the youth through the expansion of after-school slots and by releasing a new RFP, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to share some concerns and recommendations we have after reviewing the concept paper released in May. Our main points of feedback are on the proposed staffing model, the budgeting and funding model, and designing a revised Sonic model to meet the unique developmental needs of middle school students. So first of all, we strongly urge DYCD to remove the educational requirements for group leaders and youth workers. Our current group leaders who lead and supervise participant groups perform exceptional work bringing high quality content, knowledge, and skills to our students, allowing our organization to deliver excellent outcomes. Our group leaders, often young adults from our community who are former participants themselves, include seniors in high school who do not yet have their diploma, but have the necessary skills, experience, and aptitude to begin their journeys as leaders in our community. And we are hopeful that this requirement can be clarified to include high school seniors in the upcoming RFP. Additionally, our recommendation for changes to the proposed funding model include 1, increasing the price per participant to the rates outlined in the comprehensive report published by UNH in November 2023, 2, including the 3% cost of living adjustment. This is applied annually years 2 through 6 to keep pace with municipal worker raises. In the current budgeting structure, which does not provide any increases to COLA or inflation, our organization will have to adjust our staffing and anticipate retaining less staff at the end of the contract period. Finally, we would like to see the 10% minimum subcontractor requirement to be made optional. While we believe there are benefits for a partnership involving subcontractors, our current budget, which is mostly allocated towards direct service staff members, would not have the capacity to retain our activity specialists and group leaders, and if this change was effectuated. Retention of in-house specialists allows our participants to build lasting, meaningful relationships with students, in large part because of our staff and access to our supports. The students have access to our supports 5 days a week. And lastly, as Martha said, making sure that we have a Sonic contract that addresses the unique developmental strengths and needs of middle school students is deeply important to us. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, and I do not have any questions at this time.
We will now switch to remote testimony. Once your name is called, a member of our staff will unmute you and the Sergeant at Arms will set the timer and give you the go-ahead to begin. Our first panelist will be Jihad Hoyt.
You may begin.
Thank you, Chair Stevens and the members of the Committee on Children and Youth for the opportunity to speak on behalf of Expand Ed Schools. My name is Jihad Hoyt, and I'm Director of External Affairs at Expand Ed Schools. Expand Ed Schools applauds the committee, the DYCD, and the Mayor's Office for their commitment to city-funded after-school programs. While Expand Ed Schools celebrates the city's efforts to expand high-quality after-school programs, in some key ways, the concept paper falls short of the bold steps needed to address fundamental shortcomings of the existing system. First, it is essential that funding reflects the real cost of providing quality programs. The proposed rates of $6,800 for elementary programs and $3,900 for Sonic middle school programs are not enough to cover the actual expenses of the service provisions outlined in the concept paper. Providers are expected to offer extended hours, evidence-based curricula, mental health support, and meet various staffing without increased funding. Providers simply cannot afford to pay competitive wages. Second, we believe that STEM, literacy, and career readiness activities should be integrated into all programs. The Exploring at Futures initiative is a promising step, and these opportunities should be mandatory across all grade levels to adequately prepare students for life after high school. Third, we must invest into capacity building for our programs. Many providers and educators lack the resources necessary to improve their skills and competencies. We urge the city to allocate at least $5 million for professional developments in these areas such as mental health, SEL, literacy, STEM, and career-connected learning. Finally, Expand Ed strongly urges DYCD and the city to ensure year-round programming for middle school students. The loss of Sonic summer programs has left many young people without vital support during a critical time in their development. Expand Ed is proud to have collaborated with DYCD since the beginning of citywide after-school initiatives.
Thank you. Your time has expired.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Whitney Thomas Toussaint.
Your time has begun.
Thank you, Chair Stevens and members of the committee. My name is Whitney Thomas Toussaint, and I currently serve as the co-president of the CEC of District 30 in Western Queens. However, I'm speaking today as a parent of 2 public school students in District 30. On July 22nd, the mayor announced the inaugural schools and the rollout, but we were disheartened to see that no schools in District 30 were selected. We just heard testimony and that high need districts were selected. However, District 30 is a high need district. We serve Nycc populations that include Astoria houses, Woodside houses, Ravenswood houses, and Queensbridge houses, which is the largest housing authority on the continent of North America. So we were disappointed that we weren't included. In Queens, there were 6 schools from District 24, 4 from District 27, 1 from District 25, and 1 from District 29 that were included. They had economic need indexes ranging from 65% to 93%. I'm not asking that the current awardees change, but we needed more information to see why 2 of our high need schools, PS 171 and PS 76 in Queens, with economic need indexes of 93%, and lost their after-school programs with the LEAPS restructuring, the very circumstances that were discussed here, why they weren't included. I also spoke out in the Daily News article after the comptroller's report came out. And again, we heard that there are existing Compass programs in our district. However, they don't serve these 2 schools, which lost their after-school programs with LEAPS. Someone from DYCD told a parent at our school, at one of these schools, that they could go to an existing Compass program, but the ones that were listed in our district were over 2 miles away from either school and over 20 minutes to get there on public transportation. They also included 2 middle schools, a charter school, and a community center. PS 171 and PS 76 are K-5 schools. How could they go to a Compass program in a middle school? They also serve children with autism. There's a Horizon program at 171 and a NEST program at 76. These schools should have been included. I emailed Commissioner Howard and Ms. Altis from the mayor's press team as they made comments in the same article I spoke in on
Thank you.
August
Your time
28th.
has
I have not
expired.
gotten a response yet. So I'm just asking for transparency and collaboration. And again, what you all have asked for in relation to the criteria and data for the inaugural schools and why our two high need schools that I've highlighted here were excluded. And also,
Thank you
could
again. Your time has
CECs
expired.
and district superintendents be included? Thank you for hearing me today. Have a nice day.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we have Nicole Tuzian.
Your time has begun.
Thank you. Chair Stevens and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today on behalf of DanceWave, where I have the privilege of serving as executive director. For 30 years, DanceWave has advanced positive youth development through a holistic approach to dance education that emphasizes both technical excellence and the life skills young people need to thrive. Our programs intentionally measure growth in creativity, social emotional learning, and leadership, helping young people broaden their horizons, build lasting connections, and prepare for success in higher education, the workforce, and beyond. Today, DanceWave's reach extends across all 5 boroughs, creating intergenerational bridges and strengthening communities citywide. The arts are not extracurricular, they are essential. They open doors to inquiry, dialogue, and critical thinking, deepen literacy, build career readiness, and provide young people with safe, inclusive spaces to discover their voice. By fully integrating the arts into after-school programs, New York City has the opportunity to provide students with 21st century life skills that will serve them in every area of their lives. I've seen firsthand how transformative this can be. At Brooklyn International High School, DanceWave bridges in-school arts programming with professional training after school, free of cost to families. One graduate, Amara, recently secured a Brooklyn Arts Council grant and is now producing her first community dance project in film. Another, Jesus, is pursuing higher education at BMCC and exploring employment opportunities at DanceWave. Both are first-generation New Yorkers whose pathways were shaped by the mentorship, training, and community they found through arts education. Their stories demonstrate how investment in the arts yields lasting returns for individuals, families, and neighborhoods. To build on this success, we urge the City Council to adopt the following recommendations. Shift STEM to STEAM. Formally recognize the arts as integral to student development, ensuring STEAM frames after-school expansion. Require professional arts instruction in DYCD's RFP. Mandate that DYCD explicitly
Thank you.
solicit
Your time has
proposals with robust
expired.
arts components. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Nicole Ehrenfeld.
Your time has begun.
Next, we'll have Christopher Leon Johnson.
Your time has begun.
Yeah, hello. My name is Christopher Leon Johnson. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hello? Yeah, hello. My name is Christopher Leon Johnson, and I want to make clear that the thing with the after school situation is that the Department of Education, including DYCD, is not allowing many of these schools to keep themselves open after the school hours to allow these kids to congregate in there for after school. And they only open the parks up for the kids. I understand that Shakar Christian and Kevin Riley have a bill within the Parks Committee to allow the schools to start, people to start using the school playgrounds, and I support that bill like early in summertime, school playgrounds for programming, but it shouldn't be law. It should just be common sense rule. Why you have to make a law for this? And I want to make clear that we need to start putting more after school programs back into the schools and allow the Department of Education, give money to the Department of Education and DYCD to do this type of work instead of relying on the nonprofits to do this. Why is the city, the DYCD, is allowed to give money to a nonprofit like Brooklyn United that whose founder, and I think he's still part of the nonprofit, was accused of congregating with I think a 9-year-old girl, the founder of Brooklyn United, and he was at the White House, and the reason they had to put him from the White House because of that situation. I think that it's disgusting of how this city itself and this DYCD allows to give money to nonprofits whose leaders are corrupt and immoral. The old days were if you was accused of doing that stuff, you would never get no government funding. Now it's celebrated to the point of we give people who should never get government funding millions of dollars of government funding through DYC contracts for after school programs and programming contracts, and it should stop in the city. But like I said before, that all this stuff should go back to the Department of Education itself. All the money should be
Thank you.
funded back
Your
to the
time
Department
is
of Education.
expired.
And thank you so much. And enjoy your day.
Thank you. Nicole Ehrenfeld.
Your time has started.
Jamie Ehrenfeld.
Time has begun.
Hi. Yes. Thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Jamie Ehrenfeld. I am the Director of Education for Belongo, formerly known as the Afro-Latin Jazz Alliance. Belongo performs, educates about, and preserves the music of the Americas rooted in African and indigenous traditions through the entry point of jazz. Since 2007, we've served more than 20,000 students and are currently partnered with more than 20 public schools across all 5 boroughs. Programs like the Afro-Latin Jazz Academy of Music, Global Rhythms in Our Tribe, and our citywide youth orchestra, the Fat Cats, bring free, culturally grounded music education programs to hundreds of young people each year, many entering our school-based programs as complete beginners on their instruments. Learning to collaborate as an ensemble and developing one's personal relationship to music is an opportunity that should belong to every child. These programs don't just teach music, they put the A in STEAM, helping students develop creativity, problem solving, and critical thinking alongside academic success. Importantly, they are led by professional teaching artists who reflect the diversity of New York City, and our organization at large is led by an Afro-Latina. We've seen how this work transforms lives. Alumni of the Fat Cats have gone on to conservatories like Juilliard and Berkeley, with many now working as professional musicians and educators, both within our organization and throughout the field. Others have chosen different careers, but credit Belongo with instilling discipline, teamwork, and confidence, skills that carry into leadership roles and future endeavors throughout life. Research confirms what we see every day. Students engaged in music education score higher on standardized tests and are more likely to graduate high school and pursue higher education. Finally, at ECRO, the recommendations advanced by the Arts and Education Roundtable make arts a core part of STEAM learning, ensure the DYCD RFP funds professional instruction by qualified teaching artists, encourage partnerships with local arts organizations, recognize the role of arts in social and emotional learning, and include nonprofits led by people of color in equity initiatives. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. We have a few people that registered but don't seem to be online, so I'll call their names now. Kimada Lejandra.
Your time has begun.
William Jourdain.
Your time has begun.
And Cordelia Estelle.
Your time has begun.
No one's on, right? Seeing no one else, I'll turn it back over to the chair.
I would just like to say that today's hearing was very informative, and although we had a lot of questions and concern with DYCD, I do not want to overshadow how excited we are that after over 10 years, we are getting an RFP and young people are getting the expansion that they deserve. I also want to make sure that we're also highlighting that, you know, this administration has made huge investments in young people for the last 4 years, and I'm honored as the chair. I have been able to fight to make sure that we are getting our just due. So I'm really excited about the continued work. And like I said, with all the criticisms that we have, we are still excited to be able to serve even more young people this school year and for the next 3 years. So thank you. And with that, this hearing is now closed.